Folks, we're going to go ahead and get ready here in about 1 minute. I know we still have some city managers deep in conversation, and attorneys are you going to join us up here? Scott is here in spirit. Oh, perfect. He's here. All right. We're collecting people piecemeal. They'll get here. No worries. All right. We will call this regular January 28th City Commission meeting to order. Before we get started, I'd like to notice the absence of our city clerk tonight. She had an unexpected last-minute thing. She wasn't able to be here. And, of course, Commissioner Hersom had a trip out of town for work that was pre-planned. And with that, I'm sorry, I have a couple of changes to the agenda. And folks, we have an amended agenda tonight. If you will look under Section 8, Public Hearing and Ordinances, we are going to move one, which is the Urban Service Report in support of referendum ballot election on annexation, to item F under agenda items. Actually, it'll still be item E because we're going to strike the Alachua County Street and Road Agreement. I'm sorry. All right, we won't strike it. We will still discuss it. So leave it as item F for the Urban Service Report. The Alachua County Street will make it as a discussion item on, and I believe that. And are we continuing, Mike, item C under public hearings to the next meeting, legislative hearing?
Yes.
So we're going to move that to the next meeting.
We'll discuss which meetings we continue it to.
Okay.
With the agenda, but we're going to request that it be continued.
Okay, so that it'll stay on the agenda as well. So item C under Section 8, 2019-01 will stay on the agenda again as a discussion item. For when we will move it, we'll move item 1C to item F under agenda items. We will leave item D. We'll leave item D for discussion as well. Don't worry, Commissioner Cole, I'll walk you. I'll hold your hand all night long.
I'm not voting to approve this agenda.
She's made really good notes. So, okay. So with actually just the one change, the other two items will just become discussion items. Can I have an approval of the agenda?
Move to approve the agenda as
Okay.
amended.
I have a motion to approve the agenda. I have a second. Are there any questions on the agenda, or you want to hold them until we get there and I'll just explain them as we go? So does the audience have any questions on the agenda as it has been entered? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. I'm going to try to do a really good job of noticing who makes the motion in the second, since Miss Amy back there is pulling double shift for us since we're down one clerk. With that, if you would please stand for the invocation delivered to us by Pastor James Taylor from Jones Temple Church of God by Faith. And if you would please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance after that. Welcome, Pastor James.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we come right now in the name of Jesus. First of all, to tell you thank you for life, health, and strength, God. Thank you for this opportunity to be in your presence one more time. We're asking that you bless, lead, and guide the mayor and the commissioners, God, that you order their steps. You say, when righteous leaders lead, the people rejoice. And we thank you for righteous leaders. We're asking that you continue to bless them, strengthen them, and protect them. Bless their families, God. Bless them as they go out and bless them as they come in. Bless them in the city and in the field. And whatever they put their hand to do in the name of Jesus, that it prosper. And, Father, when you do these things, we'll be ever so careful to give you the praise, the honor, and the glory. It's in Jesus' name we pray. And every believer of God said amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Pastor Taylor. And once again, thank you for your participation in the November 18th and the MLK Day. I hope you enjoyed the video as it finally came together. Thank you, sir. Okay, and with that, we will move on to presentations. Our first one is Ms. Tricia Roy, who is going to be telling us a little bit about SCORE. Very exciting.
Hey, Jordan. So, which way do I turn to you guys?
You speak to
I'm-
us.
okay.
There's a camera on your face right
Oh,
now.
okay.
So
All right.
You're becoming Newberry famous.
I've become new very famous. So I am Trisha. Most of you may know me already. But today I'm going to talk to you about SCORE. The acronym for SCORE stands for what is on your agenda, Service Corp of Retired Executives. But SCORE is changing its face, and it's not so much made of retired people anymore. So that's the first thing I got to say, because I'm nowhere near retirement. I'm just getting started. But to move forward, I'm going to, so do I have a clicker? Oh, I have a clicker, okay. How do I do this?
And sometimes the clicker has to be turned on. You see a little light on the clicker? Sometimes there's a smart aleck that comes and turns it off after Miss Amy turns it on, just to confuse people.
Okay, let me see. I have the same one. No, it's on. It's on. Why doesn't it want to talk to?
Or you can just raise your hand and Miss Amy will advance
Yes.
you through.
Yeah, okay. So I am one of SCORE's stories, and as you will find out later, when I started in business, SCORE helped me, and eventually SCORE asked me to help them. And in a very short amount of time, I've found myself, I'm the vice chairman of the SCORE of North Central Florida. And we serve Alachua, Bradford, Dixie, Gilchrist, Suwannee, and Columbia counties. So this is our range where we are trying to bring our services. And so to begin at the beginning, I'm going to talk about what is SCORE, who powers us, what is our mission and vision, what is the scope, and what is your North Central Florida chapter. The North Central Florida chapter is for Alachua County, which includes the city of Newberry. What we do, how we try to help small businesses, what are your resources, and how you can also help. So that is what I'm going to try to do. So SCORE is the nation's largest network of volunteer expert business mentors with more than 10,000, actually more than 11,000 volunteers in 300 chapters. It's a nationwide organization. It's a non-profit organization. It is incorporated into 300 chapters across the country. And we are powered by the U.S. Small Business Administration. So with the backing of SBA, so like our downtown office, SBA pays our rent. SBA pays for our telephone bills. We are not paid a single dollar for what we do, but there is a lot of, but we are trained for what we do. We are held accountable for what we do. So it's not like we just show up and try to do the best we can. So as a resource partner of the U.S. Small Business Administration, we do workshops, and we've been doing this since 1964. We've been providing workshops and educational resources. What is the goal of SCORE? Is to make small business successful. The U.S. Small Business Administration decided that retired executives who had a lot of knowledge and yet had some time at their hands could help other businesses succeed by sharing their experience. So the motto of SCORE is for the life of your business. With SCORE, you're not alone on your business journey. And as I said, it's powered by Small Business Administration, and our mission is to foster vibrant small business communities through mentoring and education, and making sure every person, every small business, every entrepreneur has the support necessary to thrive as a small business owner. Why does SCORE work? Why has SCORE been successful since 1964? Alachua County is one of the places, and I've talked to the Gainesville Chamber president, and what I've been told is over the years, SCORE has been successful and unsuccessful as far as their profile in the community is concerned, depending on the core of our membership, on the core of our volunteers. Right now, SCORE of North Central Florida has suffered from quite a few people leaving suddenly. We've had a workshop chair had a stroke, and he's bedridden. He's not coming back. So and I've taken over as vice chair. The chair, the previous IT chair has moved into the chair. So we are training, and we are new, and we are trying to do a lot. But what happens with SCORE is they have seen as a model businesses with a mentor have doubled the business survival rate at 5 years, and because they are benefiting from the experience of all of these people who are stepping up to volunteer and share their experience. They are more profitable, they are able to create more jobs, and 90% note that having a mentor helped. The other part of having a mentor is that you have to be accountable. So if a mentor is stepping up to the plate to give you their time, what we ask our mentees or our clients to do is be accountable for the time. So when we give you a task, do the task and don't disappear from the radar. And a lot of that happens too, because people get busy, they think of a small business idea, and then they don't remember to follow it through. So we are trying to get it where we are actually able to help people create that accountability and make the process actually work. Amy, how can we turn on this video? This video we created last year, 2017, when I took over as a marketing chair. This was the first video that I watched. This will tell you what's core.
If you want to have more significant growth, and if you want to have a full and complete community, you need small and vibrant businesses in that.
This is our present chair.
And that's where SCORE, I think, really fits in. The mission is to foster vibrant small business communities, and there's a lot more meaning when you talk about going in and helping somebody who really doesn't have much to start with. It's a totally different subset of people, and help them establish themselves in the community, bring themselves up, create a small business, and when they bring themselves up, they bring other people up with them. All our co-founders are very technical. We didn't have a lot of business experience when we started, so SCORE was there to be able to kind of supplement that a little bit and offer us some business advice. They have tons of experience through businesses, and we just started a new startup. They helped us with their own experiences and telling us how to kind of maybe focus this market or attack this market.
One of the things that SCORE does is workshops. Workshops help people come to one table and understand what are the different components of a business. SCORE means an incredible opportunity for a small business who wants to be a small business to start, to go there, have the conversation. Can they be a business? Do they have a business plan? The components of business, financing, technology, starting up with a plan, a cohesive plan, brings the structure together. SCORE cannot build the dream. The dream belongs to the person, but SCORE can help you understand making concrete ideas to get there.
My dream was to come up with a product that worked, yeehaw, and some big company's going to take it on because it's a great idea. But I've gone through the motions of getting the patent. I've spent a lot of money. SCORE's business plan template has helped me do the research and learn the industry that I thought that I knew, having owned horses, my whole life, but really made me dive in and do the research of who my competition would be, what the costs are involved, my business model.
Being a small business and helping another small business, I can give them that experience. Like, this, don't give up. This is what I did. It gets hard. No one's going to tell you that it's easy. You can't just, it's not like a franchise. You walk in and everything's done for you. Having the backing of SCORE and my knowledge, it means a lot to me to give back to those that really, really have a passion and really, really want to start a business, but just don't know where to start.
As a scientist, we have plenty of ideas, but as a business, you need to be more focused. And then this is the thing that probably for the startup company really need mentors from SCORE, like helping us to understand the system and then how we can get there, get our goal.
What SCORE really means for me is a way to give back to the community. I am really interested in us being able to grow the economy, being able to create jobs, and have people fulfill their dreams. There's a lot of people out there that want to do this, want to get into business, but they don't know how. And we can help them through that process.
Well done.
So this was created by a company out of Winter Garden, and they did an amazing job. How can we move forward? So what SCORE does is SCORE has help for every stage of your business. If you're in the beginning of your business, we can help you. If you're successful and you want to create an export plan, we have tie-ups with the U.S. Commercial Service We have tie-ups with the U.S. Department of Agriculture. We are rolling out a new program for farmers, which I'm hoping to see more momentum with as we move through the year. But we have programs for everybody. So reach out to us and we can help you. And now I'm going to tell you a little bit about our Present Score chapter. The chapter chair is Jeff Greenspan. You saw him on the video. He could not be here today, unfortunately. I'm the vice chair, and the workshop chair is a young man named Amnay Avasti. He's a postdoc he's working full-time right now. He finished his PhD and did his postdoc, and now he's working over here, and he's signed up with SCORE. And we have our outreach chair, Alan Crystal. So Alan and I are going to be reaching more and more into the outlying areas and bringing more people into the SCORE program. That is what our hope is. And we find us all at the North Central Florida SCORE.org. That's our website, and that's what our mission is. What I'm also here to talk about tonight is something that we do a lot of workshops. So SCORE brings workshops. They brought workshops to Newberry also. From all the way to creating business plans, creating an export plan, you name it, SCORE has it. But this is the first time we are bringing a workshop in partnership with Google. So Google has their own program, and SCORE is a recognized partner of Google. And Google is bringing this workshop for the first time to Alachua County. Get your business online with Google. It's a workshop which is going to happen on 22nd of March. It's a live workshop with their national speaker, Pamela Starr. She is super amazing, and they require that we have a venue that is larger because it draws big crowds. It's going to happen on the 22nd of March at G-Tech in Gainesville. If you do not know it, it's on the east side of town on Hawthorne Road. It's the actual workshop itself will be from noon to 1. We've allowed 15 minutes for questions and stuff like that, and the doors are going to open right around 11:30. There is a cost to enroll because we could be providing a boxed lunch, and it's $20. But the value is, if you haven't worked with trying to get your business searchable on Google, what is search engine optimization? What is this magic formula that these internet companies keep hammering us with? Okay, I can put you on first page of Google. You don't know what they do, but Google can tell you what they do. So hearing it from the horse's mouth, I believe it will be a tremendous resource for anybody in small business. If you don't understand it, if you don't understand IT, it's very good to attend this workshop. So that is something I wanted to talk about. And if you wanted to sign up for it, find us on our Facebook page. We haven't yet created our landing page for the workshop yet because we just have a few more things that are happening. We are powered by volunteers, so remember, everybody has a regular day job that they're doing. But we are trying to, the landing page will be created soon. But if you go to our Facebook page and message us that you want to sign up for the workshop, we'll find a way to reach you, and we'll enroll you for the workshop. And we'll have a Facebook landing page and a page to pay for it and sign up online. All of that will be done. But thank you very much. I don't know if I went over 15 minutes. I'm sorry when I talk about SCORE. I am very excited. Thank you so much for having me.
Tricia, you're passionate about everything you do. You're doing a lot.
And that is where you can email me, trisha.roy@scorevolunteer.org. If you want to even sign up for the class, you can do. Oh, she gave me a timer over here. I'm not over.
You are doing just fine.
Thank you so much.
Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Tricia, our SCORE, before she leaves? Again, we really appreciate the workshops.
If anybody has any questions, yes.
The workshops you've put on, the help. I'm sure we will be glad to, I'll share the Facebook page myself, let folks know about the opportunities that you're presenting with them and that are coming up in the near future.
Thank you so much, Jordan.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Stay warm tonight. Okay, the next item on the agenda is a special moment, and I think it's best to hear from the family that this has affected the most. So if you guys would mind making your way down, introducing yourself, just tell us a little bit about the story, and then tell us about how the part that the city of Newberry played into it. And young lady, you can be as shy as you want to. I have a daughter, and she says she warms up after just about a couple minutes. So.
Yeah. My name is Brittany Kelso. I've been a resident of Newberry for about 4 years. And on January 9th, my little girl was attacked by a pit bull. And 2 Newberry city workers saved her life. And the quick thinking of my best friend kept her from getting a very bad infection and the damage just being a lot worse.
But if it wouldn't have been for the quick action of the 2 city workers stopping, the damage to her leg could have been severely worse. And if they would have not stopped, I don't even know if I could have gotten it off of her. So if it wouldn't have been for those two guys, I don't know where we'd be today.
Well, that had to be an absolutely terrifying moment for you as a mother. I can't imagine it. And it's certainly not in their job description, but it's in the job description of humanity. And we only hire the absolute best humans here in the city of Newberry. And so it's not the expectation, but we are thrilled that they were there in the moment and that they had the quick thinking to act on it, and that she is going to be just fine. She's going to be fine?
Yes, sir.
The leg's going to be fine?
Yes, sir. I've
That's
never
awesome.
been so happy to live in a small little safe town as Newberry before.
If it wouldn't have been for Chad and Travis, she wouldn't be able to be here today. So.
Well, and it's on that note and why it is my pleasure to read the following proclamation into the City of Newberry records. Quote, "A hero is somebody who voluntarily walks into the unknown," by Tom Hanks. Whereas on January 9th, 2019, while going about their daily job duties, Chad Purvis and Travis Ron observed a dog attacking a young girl. And whereas without thought of bodily consequences, they stepped in, rescued the little girl from the dog, and whereas due to quick thinking and courageous actions, Chad Purvis and Travis Ron saved a young girl from further injury. And whereas the City of Newberry deems it proper to officially acknowledge such an act of heroism, now therefore I, Jordan Marlowe, Mayor of the City of Newberry, do hereby commend and applaud Chad Purvis and Travis Ron for acts of bravery in an emergency. In witness hereof, I have hereunto set my hand this 28th day of January 19th. And Chad, if you would join us, I'll present this to you up here with the fair. Watch your legs.
Yeah. I'm gonna go out and around. Here we go.
It's supposed to not cause a trip.
Yeah.
Can you go, we'll put it right here on the front of this.
On the front of it.
Yeah. And then you're going to be Newberry famous too.
Yeah.
And Travis? Amy, would you get her a pen? A Newberry pen? Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for coming up here. I'm sorry that you went through that. It's an awful experience. I'm sorry that you went through it. I'm glad you're going to be better. Let me know when you get to the high school.
Yeah.
We'll get you on the golf team. All right, thank you guys so much.
It was just God's timing, really. That's all it was.
Well, we still appreciate you, sir. We're glad. We agree. The divine hand of providence put you there, but you did it, and we appreciate you. All right. Always great to have stories with happy endings at the end. So thank you, everybody, for coming down and allowing us to celebrate that everybody came out all right. Okay, we'll move on to the business spotlight tonight, which is Bullock Law Firm. He's got involved in the city of Newberry with a couple of social gatherings here in the past year, but I'm glad that we got you here tonight so that we can formally introduce you to the town. Brian, are you going to do a formal introduction?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This evening it's my privilege to introduce Mr. Walker Bullock, attorney here in the city of Newberry. Mr. Bullock is a true local, having grown up down the road in Williston. Mr. Bullock started his professional education at Georgia at Abraham Baldwin Agricultural College. ABAC, which is the Stallions, in case anybody's interested. But then moved back home to finish his undergraduate degree as a Gator, where he majored in food and resource economics, which I think was akin to one of our commissioners' degree, and minored in agricultural law. He then obtained his Juris Doctor degree from the University of Florida's Levin College of Law. Mr. Bullock brought his firm to Newberry in November of 2017. The Bullock Law Firm specializes in 4 areas of practice: agriculture, business, family, and estate, which covers just about every legal need you might have in a rural community like Newberry, and we're very happy to have him. So in closing, I'd just like to say welcome Mr. Bullock and his family, and thank you for choosing Newberry as your business home. Thank you.
Please, don't rush off.
Right. I just want to thank everyone in the town, Mayor Marlowe, and everyone else has been extremely receptive and welcoming to me, and I just really appreciate that. It's tough starting a business and tough starting a solo practice of law, so it's been a big challenge, but everyone's been extremely supportive, and I really appreciate that.
Well, we're glad to hear that, and you're real easy to find right here on Newberry Road. You can see the sign there, and he puts on a very nice social, so make sure you catch the next one. Thank you for coming out on this chilly night to introduce yourselves. Okay, and wearing a completely different hat, I think Ms. Tricia is going to come talk to us about international real estate. I need to get into the international real estate. That sounds like you get a lot of travel.
Yes.
Okay.
If you like travel, that is the niche for you. So I'm going to talk about, I'm going to talk about my real estate school. While I volunteer for SCORE, something has to pay the bills, so that is my business. That's my day job and night job, depending. So Open Spaces International School of Real Estate is perhaps, I do not know if another one exists, but the only brick and shingle School of Real Estate in Alachua County. We have online schools. We have people from Tampa and different places coming to teach at the Gainesville-Alachua County Association of Realtors. They come in and teach a 2-week class, an intensive 2-week class, but we do not have a School of Real Estate in Alachua County. And that is why I'm a state licensed instructor. I'm licensed by the state of Florida. And that is why I started the School of Real Estate to bring to Alachua County a school that teaches real estate education in person. So if you are considering a career in real estate, one of the things I like to tell people, and a lot of people think that it is very easy to be successful in real estate, and it is not. It is one of the careers where the barriers to entry is very low. All you need is a high school diploma as far as your education is concerned to enter, but the barriers to success are very high. And as anybody who has been seasoned in the business over time has found out that you have to constantly renew yourself, educate yourself, keep yourself updated with trends, and most of all, be passionate and excited about what you do. Because if you're not, you're going to burn out, and it is not a walk for the faint-hearted. And I tell everybody this, I tell all my students this, that it is not something that really a high schooler can take on. I have 2 teenage children. I wouldn't trust my 16-year-old 2 years later with my house purchase, no matter how smart he is. It's just simply, it needs a little more. So a lot of people who come to me to start real estate may be building from other experience in any other career, even other experience in life. A lot of people, if you have had that experience, that might help you. Don't think that just having a high school diploma and no other life experience is going to help you in real estate. The next thing that helps is having a broker or trainer or a coach who can help you succeed in real estate. And beginning with the right trainer and the right coach is very important. Lot of brokerages, essentially a lot of people don't understand how the real estate model works. The real estate model, every realtor is an independent contractor, but they work under the broker, and the broker is essentially responsible for the transaction. Every transaction belongs to the broker, and the broker is legally responsible. But what has happened more and more with large brokerages is that the broker is not even present in an office most of the time, and agents are given these online programs to educate themselves, and it's a mostly an anonymous process where nobody is really participating in their education, in their coaching, in their getting better, and it's a kind of either they sink or they swim. That's the way most agents find themselves. And so therefore, my goal in creating the School of Real Estate is to create a batch of professionals whom I will start teaching from the day one, and then I will bring them into being successful realtors, because I'm not opening a school of real estate to turn out batches of realtors. I'm trying to create individuals, professionals who will be successful in their business. That's my goal. Why would you consider a career in real estate? As Ms. Glanzer knows, Joy knows, that the real estate code of ethics begins with these words, that under all is the land. So you cannot do any endeavor. Even the city hall is built upon land. Every human endeavor has to be built upon land. So anything that, any business, real estate is the backbone of any endeavor. And once you understand that, you can find different ways of helping and serving the needs of real estate in various businesses, individuals, and the goal to serve is perhaps the most important thing if you are intending to have a career in real estate. That is what I think. That I'm going to talk a little bit about how to get licensed. A lot of my students, when they come to me, they tell me, okay, if I do your class, am I a realtor? No, you're not. You have to go to the Florida Real Estate Commission's page and fill out a form RE1, complete a fingerprinting, and then finish the 63-hour pre-licensing program that my school teaches. We also do a class towards the state licensing exam, license test, and all of that can be done with Open Spaces International School of Real Estate. Pre-licensing and licensing mostly teaches you real estate law and doesn't really tell you anything about the business of real estate. All it gets you is a foot through the door. Once you are licensed, you need to work with a broker or a trainer, and what Open Spaces International brings you is the coaching and success to bring coaching towards the success in real estate. My brokerage has programs that we have commissioned from NAR and from Florida Realtors to create, put agents on a path to success where they are going to be continuously mentored by me, I'm the broker, and through these programs find niches and ways to become successful. Real in-person coaching as opposed to mere online coaching in the everyday business of real estate. That's what we are doing. While I'm saying all of this, I'm going to say a little bit of my background. I have 2 master's degrees, one in ecology and one in management, and that has simply helped me get a different kind of handle in real estate. I am a Florida state instructor licensed by DBPR, and I'm also licensed, I'm approved instructor by the state of Florida, the Florida Realtors, which is the NAR, the Florida portion of the National Association of Realtors. I am a Leadership Academy graduate, and I am part of Florida Realtors Leadership Academy of 2019. I have been part of the Public Leadership Institute of Gainesville in 2015, and I have these designations are like an alphabet soup, but they have taken me a lot of time time and education to achieve. CIPS, GRI. My main niche of real estate is international, but I teach. My agents come from work in different areas. They have their own niches and they develop their own niches over time. I myself work in the international arena because that's what I enjoy doing. I travel a lot, and as you said, Jordan, one of the conferences that I'm traveling to in March, I'm traveling to Cannes. MIPIM is the largest real estate conference in the world. It's held in the same place, same venue where the Cannes Film Festival is held. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It brings together more than 26,000 participants from all over the world. So that is what I do, but Open Spaces International School of Real Estate wants to invite people who wants to participate and get their pre-licensing. We are starting classes on the 1st of February. If you want more information, you can email me at info@openspacesinternational.com or visit my website, openspacesrealestateschool.com. 1st of February will be the classes. Just a little bit word about the classes. My classes will be part-time in the evening, so it will suit a person who is working and wants to do classes part-time. I will be teaching 2 or 3 times a week because my other 2 evenings are filled up with karate lessons. So that's the whole, I have to do it on the evenings I have available. So Mondays, Wednesdays, and probably Fridays, I will be teaching 2 to 3 hour classes. And with that, over 2 to 3 months, we will be building up the 63-hour pre-licensing. So it is meant for somebody who is already working in a profession, has a job, and wants to get their pre-licensing done in the evening hours. That's the perfect opportunity for them. So that it's starting on the 1st of February is the first class. The cost is $350 for the entire program. It includes the books, includes the examinations and everything. Just want to put that out there. But to sign up, they will email me at info@openspacesinternational.com. That will get, and I'll get them enrolled with by whoever does that. All right, thank you so much for having me, and I promise you guys, you will not see any more of me tonight.
Very exciting stuff, Ms. Tricia. Does the board have any questions for Open Spaces International School of Real Estate? Thank you so much for coming. Stay
Thank
warm
you.
tonight. It's supposed to get a little chilly. And of course, Mr. Bullock, as part of the prize for being the business spotlight, you do not have to stay the whole meeting. So we don't, not rushing you out, but just letting you know that it is the consolation prize as well. At this point in the meeting, we have opportunity for public announcements. These are the 2-minute, non-controversial. Just want to let folks know this is something that's happening. Chair recognizes Mr. Marlin. Come on down, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. Thank you for your time. I am Marlon Day, Library Manager of the Newberry Branch Library with the Alachua County Library District. A few things we'd like to bring to your attention. First, on Thursday, February 5th, we will celebrate the Lunar New Year with a craft for school-age children. This is an afternoon craft at 3 p.m. for school-age children on February the 5th. And on a Tuesday, February 12th, we are bringing in life coach and professional organizer Angela Betancourt, who will teach us 10 ways to make our life better and to appreciate it more. That program is going to be at 6:30 Tuesday evening. Angela is kind of like the Marie Kondo of Gainesville, and I've heard that she's very fabulous. We are partnering with The Blend and offering a creative cafe on Monday afternoons for the teens that hang out there. We have a wide range of activities planned, including poetry jams, open mic, theater games, creative writing, and more. And that's every Monday at 3 p.m. at The Blend, all the school days. So you can check out our calendar at www.aclib.us/Newberry for more programs. If you want to share those, we'd appreciate it. As the Vice President of the Newberry Lions Club, I'd like to bring to your attention that on Friday, February the 8th, the Lions Club is hosting our second heart-to-heart dinner and dance. It's going to be here at the Municipal Building next door. The cost is $20 each, or $35 for a couple for tickets. You can also purchase a corporate table. We're doing 8 seats for $140. If you'd like to, if you're interested in those, you can contact Lion Ken, and the number is on the flyer, which I have left with Amy. For those of you who attended the dance last year, it's a lot of fun. This year we're bringing back Mr. October, who was at our Christmas dance in 2016, and he was just wildly entertaining, and he's worth the price of admission alone. You also get a really nice dinner to go along with it. Okay, that's all I have tonight. If anybody has any questions.
Thank you, sir. That dinner's always a good time. Take your wife out for a spin around the dance floor. Any other public comments?
can't set the timer for myself, but I promise I'll just be a minute. The Newberry Lions Club, Newberry Elementary Art Expo will be on Saturday, February 9th at 6 o'clock p.m. over at our art gallery.
What was the time, Amy? 6?
6 p.m. That is the, what do we call it? That's where the students come out and
Display all their art.
display their art. The art will be up for the week. It will be available to come over during the dance, but of course the Lions will be at the dance, so please go to the dance. And then on Saturday, come over, enjoy some cookies and some Kool-Aid, and see all the art as well. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Any further public comment?
Can I make one from here?
Sure.
Okay. I just want to announce it on this Wednesday at my office across the street, 25527 West Newberry Road, is the first Naranon meeting. It's a group that's organized by a local citizen in response to our opioid task force and all that at 7 p.m. I encourage those who have family members who have addiction issues, this is for you, and we hope to see you. I'm sorry if we see you there, but we hope that you'll come and share in this experience.
And the focus of this one is specifically for the families of people who are suffering from
It's
addiction.
similar to, if you're familiar with Al-Anon, it's for Alcoholics Anonymous. This is for narcotics addicts families. If you have a family member who is addicted, this is a support group for that. And they'll meet every single Wednesday at the same place at 7 o'clock. Thank you.
Okay. Any further public comment? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? I have a motion from Commissioner Coleman, a second from Commissioner Farnsworth. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously, and we'll move into our first public hearing and ordinance. Mr. Attorney, you want to go ahead and read 2018-21 as Brian is making his way down, and we'll go ahead and get that detail.
Happy to do so, Mr. Mayor. This is ordinance 2018-21, an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, amending the text of the City of Newberry Land Development Regulations as amended to amend Section 5.39 entitled Bonding in lieu of completed improvements, Section 14.5 entitled Assurance of Completion of Public Improvements, Section 4.21 entitled PD Plan Development, Section 4.18 entitled PRRD Planned Rural Residential Development, and Section 4.29 entitled MU Mixed Use Development, repealing all ordinances in conflict and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2018-21 as read by title only.
Do I have that motion? I have a motion from Commissioner Farnsworth, second from Commissioner Glanz. All right, Ryan, you want to take us through 2018-21?
This is the second hearing for enactment. It's an ordinance that you've seen before, about a couple of month process. First brought forth for direction from the Commission, and then brought back with a draft ordinance, which the Commission approved on first reading. This, as a reminder, would allow developer to use what's called a construction loan agreement in addition to the other surety devices that we currently offer. The construction loan agreement would allow them to get a loan with a lender that also names the City of Newberry as a beneficiary in the case of default of the development. And so this is a situation where once the construction plans have been approved for a phase of a residential subdivision, and then subsequently the developer wants to go ahead and be able to obtain building permits, well, to do that you have to get the plat approved first, and part of that you have to either have constructed all of the infrastructure improvements or you have to have a surety device guaranteeing their construction. And so this is one more means that the city would offer as a surety that would guarantee the construction. It puts 120% of the estimated costs for the infrastructure aside. At each step along the way, when the developer needs to take a draw, that draw is reviewed by the city. The developer's engineer has to certify the construction is per the approved plans, and then the city approves the draw, and the developer can pull the draw along the way. When you get towards the end, there is never less than 45% of the initial estimated cost of construction available should the city need to fall back on it. So when they get to the end, 25% is held in reserve until the City has approved final approval of the constructed infrastructure, and then there's the additional 20% from the 120. So you have a total of 45% drawn at at a minimum at all times if necessary. And there's that, and then the other part of the ordinance is some cleanup, that it redirects everything to a central location that talks about the surety devices as opposed to being referenced in multiple areas.
Okay. Reading through it, seemed like staff did a pretty good job of taking y'all's suggestions, comments, and ideas and putting it down. Did they get it right? Everybody comfortable with that language? Anybody have any questions for Brian on the new surety agreement? Hearing none. Does the public have any questions on this surety agreement? It's a pretty technical thing. I wouldn't try to explain it myself, but Brian does a great job. Okay. Hearing no questions, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously.
Mr. Mayor, just point out for those that were in attendance to the Newberry-Jonesville Chamber meeting last Thursday night, this will be one more item that we add to the list of things that our commission adopts in order to enable economic development in Newberry.
Just one more way Newberry is progressively conservative. All right. Jamie, welcome. Mr. Attorney, you want to go ahead and read this one in as well?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. This is ordinance number 2018-18, an ordinance pertaining to utilities within the city of Newberry, amending Chapter 98, Section 98-97 of the Code of Ordinances of the city of Newberry by adding an additional provision to be known as Section 98-97C3, the adoption of policies for the cross-connection control plan, repealing all ordinances in conflict and providing an effective date. Appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2018-18 as read by title only.
Do I have that motion?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Coleman, a second from Commissioner Martin. Was it you that said that? A motion from Commissioner Farnsworth. Y'all sound just alike. You look alike and you sound alike. Oh my goodness. And I have a motion from Commissioner Farnsworth and a second from Commissioner Martin. Okay, go ahead, Jamie.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, we first brought this item before you back in December. If you recall, we had a cross-connection control ordinance on the books, but we really didn't have policies to implement or enforce those or do the record keeping as required by Florida Administrative Code. And we brought forth a draft policy for the Commission to consider, and you moved it forward in December.
Okay, so this is our second reading. Anybody have any thoughts, new realizations? This was pretty exciting. We got some praise about this last time. Good stuff. Yeah. All right. So, public have any questions or comments on cross-connection control plans? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously, especially from the twins down there at the end. All right, item C, Mike, tell us, or do you want Brian to come up and explain?
I'll take a crack. If I get into deep trouble, Brian can come salvage the situation.
I would try as well, but I know I'm going to mess it up. So,
Mr. Mayor, this ordinance, we determined that there's an additional step required before we put this before the Commission for consideration, and so and we've already advertised it. So we are requesting that the Commission continue this ordinance to date certain. That way, we won't have to advertise a second time. The thing that we learned about is a 15-day timing that's required for an item that's coming up later in the meeting. If the Commission approves the report that's coming up, the Urban Services Report, we have to transmit that to Alachua County Board of County Commissioners 15 days prior to having a public hearing. So we could not consider this first reading on the February 11th meeting. The soonest that we could consider it would be at a special meeting on Wednesday, February the 13th. My recommendation is that we schedule a special meeting, but it be conditioned upon your success in meeting with the Board of County Commissioners next Tuesday evening. Maybe we won't be going through annexation referendum at all.
Okay, so the long and the short of it is we've got to submit this urban service report. If everything goes well next Tuesday, it will become a moot point. And I have all faith that our relationship with Alachua County now is on whole new grounds. I think it will. If it doesn't go well for whatever reasons next Tuesday, we may need to have a special meeting because we would not be able to vote on item C at the next meeting because it's 14 days and we has to have 15 days. So I wouldn't even worry about trying to put anything on the calendar just yet. Let me have next Tuesday, and then we'll see what happens from that. Unless y'all's calendar is filling up really fast, and we need to get it. It's a no-brainer item for us. It's it's already stated policy that we want to try to close in these enclaves. I believe it's also a no-brainer for the county at this point. They have the same stated policy. But that's kind of the long and short of it, and that's the reason for the amended agenda, because we had to put this urban service report in. Is that as clear as mud? What's that? It has been transmitted? It's pending. Pending us tonight. So tomorrow, the urban service report and some voluntary annexation paperwork will all begin the process tomorrow. So tomorrow, a lot of things will get triggered to begin. Is that everybody? Okay, so Mike, do you want to set a tentative date, or do you just want to wait and see how Tuesday plays out? Is it up to the board? Doesn't matter to staff.
Mr. Mayor, I think we have to continue to date certain in order to not advertise again. So we have to select a tentative date, not to say that we couldn't amend it,
change it
in a future meeting.
I'm good with the 5th. Everybody good with?
Nope. Nope. The 5th. The soonest that we could do it is February
12th.
13th. Yeah, we're proposing Wednesday
days.
the 13th to be 15 days from when we transmit it, which will be tomorrow.
Ah, okay. So February 13th?
Yes.
Wednesday night.
I'll have church, she'll have, you'll be starting that meeting.
You're not leading the meeting,
What
though.
time is that on Wednesday?
Well, we could set it for whatever time is. We could do 6, a little bit earlier if that helps. What time is it?
It'd be a one
service. 6 o'clock, Wednesday 13th?
Will it take more than an hour, you think?
Should take about 10 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, so 6 o'clock, February 13th. And hopefully I will bring my best oratorical skills to make sure we do not have to have that meeting.
You can do it if you're successful.
We'll cancel. Oh,
If I'm successful, then voluntary annexation will happen and we won't need the referendum.
that's correct.
Okay? Okay. Okay, any more questions about that? It's an annexation item, folks. I know we probably bored you to tears the last 5 minutes, but we've got some people who want to annex into the city of Newberry. We're trying to help them. And we just have to help work through the process. There's a lot of red tape. Okay, then we will move on to agenda items, the election proclamation, which I don't believe I actually have that. Mr. Attorney, do you have
I
the
do,
election
Mr. Mayor. I
proclamation?
will pull it up right now.
I'm
Mr.
sorry,
Mayor,
hang on
this
one.
is-
Ms. Amy? Or did we not vote on that time certain? Okay, so can I have a motion to move ordinance 2019-01 to February 13th?
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Martin.
Second.
I have a second from Commissioner Glanzer. Any comments from the public? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Motion passes unanimously, and that bought you just the time you needed to pull that proclamation up.
Yes, sir.
I don't mind reading it for you, but if you're geared up.
I'm geared up. And,
Thank you.
And City of Newberry proclamation calling a regular election under and by virtue of the power vested in yourself as mayor of the City of Newberry, Florida. A general election is hereby called to be held in the City of Newberry, Florida on April 9th, 2019 for the following purpose. Number 1, to elect a mayor and 2 city commissioners. Mayor shall serve a 2-year term. Group 4 city commissioner to serve a 2-year term. Group 5 city commissioner to serve a 2-year term. The election shall be held at the City of Newberry Municipal Building located at 25420 West Newberry Road, Newberry, Florida. and the polls shall open at 7 a.m. on said day and be closed at 7 p.m. on the same day. The clerk's deputy and inspectors of said election are as follows. Ms. Megan Lane will be the clerk, Ms. Fleta Harris, assistant clerk, Mr. Ronald Osborne will be the deputy, Ms. Sharon Cheeseborough will be the inspector ballot scanner, Mr. Roger Grablein will be the inspector ballot scanner, Ms. Annetta McLeod will be an inspector, Ms. Pat McElroy will be an inspector. The qualifying period begins at noon on Monday, February 25th and ends at noon on Thursday, March 7th, 2019. Candidates for the municipal election shall qualify for office with the City Clerk Judy Rice at City Hall located at 25440 West Newberry Road, Newberry, Florida, Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. till 5 p.m., except on Monday, February 25th, when qualifying begins at noon, and Thursday, March 7th, when qualifying ends at noon. Qualifying fees, the mayor position will be $421.20. That is $315.90 plus $105.30 as the election assessment fee. The city commissioner position shall be $421.20, which is, again, $315.90 plus $105 plus 30 cents, the election assessment fee. Given under your hand and official seal of the City of Newberry, Florida, this 28th day of January 2019, signature for Jordan Marlowe, our mayor, and attested by Judy S. Rice, our city clerk. The appropriate motion is to pass the proclamation calling for an election, a regular election, as read by its entirety.
Okay, I have that motion.
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, a second from Commissioner Coleman. Is there any questions about the dates or the fees? I know that we announced that last time so everybody could kind of get used to it. I'm not worried about it. I have every confidence the school board is going to give teachers a raise any decade. It's coming. And everybody's comfortable with the dates. They're what we decided. All right. Well, let the election season begin shortly, right? So I have a motion and a second. Any questions from the public on the proclamation calling the election? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. We're going to move on to Resolution 2019, which is the Opiate Task Force. I'll read this one into the record. It's a resolution of the City of Newberry, Florida, establishing an opioid task force to address the opioid addiction epidemic. Appointing members to the task force consisting of 5 members for the purpose of making recommendations to the Commission and establishing an effective date. Whereas the opioid epidemic is impacting our nation's citizens with an estimated 42,000 people losing their lives to overdoses each year. And whereas in 2017, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services declared a public health emergency and announced a 5-point strategy to combat the opioid crisis. And whereas communities, including the City of Newberry, are overwhelmed by the opioid misuse epidemic and are struggling to respond meaningfully to the challenge. And whereas in 2016, Alachua County had the second highest rate of prescription drug use among youth in the state of Florida. Whereas the City of Newberry would like to create a task force to develop an action plan, implement provision measures, and address the growing opioid crisis. And whereas the City of Newberry Rules of Procedures allows for the creation of such a task force by resolution, now therefore be it resolved by the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Florida, and I'll let the sections stand for themselves, adopted by an affirmative vote of a majority of the quorum present of the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Florida, at a regular meeting this 28th day of January 2019. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion from Commissioner Glanzer to approve the creation of the task force. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Commissioner Farnsworth. Has everybody had a chance to read through this advisory board? Any questions about what they'll be tasked with, what they're going to be looking at and helping us with?
When are you going to appoint them?
We're actively taking applications now, so the applications will end February 6th, and then we'll bring those applications to the board, and the board will look through them, rank the applications. You know, this is in no way meant to increase the workload of staff. So we're really looking for people to apply who bring their own level of expertise with them. So we need mental health people, folks who have backgrounds in this area and can help guide us, not look for us to guide them. So we're really looking for 5 expert in a variety of issues, but they need to also be tapped into our community. They need to know Newberry and what Newberry is facing, how Newberry can respond. It is online, and you can actually fill it out online. I've had a couple of people tell me that they have completed it online, so you can print it off of our website. You can actually fill it out on the website itself. I've had a lot of folks talk to me about this and have been waiting to join us. So my hope is that we get a whole lot of people, and you guys have a tough call picking 5 people, and I certainly want to figure out a way to tap into all of the energy of everybody who wants to participate. So we can only appoint 5 members, but if you've applied and you don't get it, there will absolutely be ways in the future for this, for you to help focus the community on this. Are there any questions from the public on this task force? I really want to thank the commission. We haven't taken a vote yet, but I'm anticipating a positive vote. I want to thank you guys. I want to thank staff. I want to thank everybody in town who's reached out to me. This is a crisis. President Trump has called it a crisis 2 years ago. It was one of the first things he said. We always think of it at the border, but it's right here in our backyard. It's here in Alachua County. It's moving into middle schools. We've got to do something. We've got to get on top of this. So thanks, the whole community coming together. And with that, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you all. Okay, and Mike, the much awaited, we're all excited about this one too, advanced metering infrastructure. And guys, I want to remind the board that it was a different commission that voted for advanced metering infrastructure. We have 2 new members since we made that decision 2 years ago. And it is a pretty complicated thing. I've been certainly talking to both, there's your mic on, Lee, to both Commissioner Glanzer and Commissioner Hersom. But it is an exciting infrastructure possibility. But I want to make sure that everybody on the board is comfortable with it to make sure that that we're all clear, because we are about to vote on some fairly significant expenditures for this infrastructure. So with that, Mike, please take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you introduced the item, automated metering infrastructure is a project that's been in front of our commission before. I guess we started in 2014 or 15 having dialogue, and it was positively received by the commission. In 2015, we took a trip to Kings Mountain, a community that's just a little bit larger than Newberry. So this isn't something, and they've had quite a bit of success with it. So, that affirmed to us that this isn't technology that is only for the biggest utilities out there. It could be scaled appropriately for a smaller utility, although that poses some challenges, which is why we've kind of gone as slow as it seems that we've gone, as we've been working with the FMPA, the Joint Action Agency that we are a member of. We are 134th of FMPA. Former Mayor Bill Conrad is the chairman of the board there. Their staff have been tremendous in helping us build, I guess, our request for proposal document that we are going to put out to secure a contractor and a vendor for AMI should this board want to move forward. But as we got to the 75% complete, it was really when we were in about the 33% complete part, and they were working on developing this RFP document, we recognized that there was a gap in technical expertise on our team. FMPA is very strong, and they have put together a good document that is now 75 or 80% complete. We have a great, competent staff. You work with Dallas and Jamie and our customer service people every week. You know what I'm talking about. But we believe that there's some what we call an owner's engineer is a technical expert that is kind of the contract manager, inspector kind of guy that makes sure we get what we want. And we, after 6 or 8 months of dialogue, determined that that position was key to success for our project, and that a failure to bring that person on board would jeopardize our ability to have a successful project. So we solicited experts in the industry to provide proposals. FMPA already had some engineering service contractors under contract, and so we solicited a proposal from their pool, and I believe we got, was it 4 that we got? And I'll introduce Mike here in just a second. We received 4 responses. As a team, we shortlisted them down to 2. Those 2 came and met with our staff and made presentations to us. And out of that, both were super qualified, but one really seemed to fit the bill for what we were looking for. And they're called Quanta Technologies, and they are mostly made up of former contractors, people that have had several projects successful. I think they total over 100 projects successfully deployed as contractors, and now they've moved into consulting. So they have a tremendous amount of knowledge about how these things should go. So the way that contractually this will work, and I have a PowerPoint presentation as well, but contractually, just to introduce this, we propose that we contract with FMPA to perform these services, and they will invoice us periodically, and we would pay them the bill. And in turn, they are going to contract with Quanta to perform the work scope, since that relationship's already in place. So what our commission is considering tonight is a letter, a 1-page or 1.5-page letter agreement from FMPA, simply to stand in place and secure this contractor for us. And then in your backup information is their master agreement, the task order, and the proposal that Quanta put together for the work. The way the proposal came together, we worked with Quanta and with FMPA staff to phase the project. So we determined that we were going to look at this project in 3 phases. And there's a phase 1. They're described in your staff report. Phase 1 is simply putting everything together, doing a business case analysis, and getting it out to bid. And that comes with a fixed proposed fee, or it's really a not-to-exceed proposed fee of $82,000. The phase 2 and phase 3 work scopes are budgetary, because some of the decision-making that's going to go on in phase 1 will allow our vendor to refine that. And so we could get better value out of that. During our discussion with them, they felt like that, well, gee, if some of the things that, if the city wants better costs, they can take our risk away as we go through phase 1. As decisions are made, that'll take away some of our risk of losing money, and we think we can refine the work scope. They worked very heavily on their travel budget to reduce our price, and so we have phase 2 is receipt of the bids, vendor evaluation, and selection of a vendor, and negotiating a contract with that vendor. And then phase 3 is project execution. That is when the vendor orders equipment and begins successful deployment in Newberry. Each phase has a very detailed schedule associated with it. Crudely, it shows up on page 3 of your staff report. We propose to begin work next month if this is successfully approved by the commission. Phase 1 will begin in February and will conclude in June. That's what we estimate. Phase 2 would begin in June and conclude in November. So by November, we think we'd have somebody under contract. And then phase 3, the deployment, would last until June of 2020. The total price for the OE fee currently is, for all 3 phases, is right in the is $230,000. And the cost for the deployment is estimated to be between $1 to $1.2 million. So potentially a $1.2 million total project to $1.4 million total project, still within the range that we estimated back in 2015 when we first pitched this to the commission. I'll grab the clicker to go through just a couple final comments on that, and then then I'll introduce Mike McCleary, who's with FMPA. He's their lead. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So here's what the role of the owner, and we call him OE. It stands for Owner's Engineer, Owner's Representative. These are the tasks that we identified in our work scope when we were soliciting proposals. So they will take on those tasks. Here's and this is a quick presentation, which I know you are unaccustomed to from me. This is the when work will begin for each of the phases. Oh, I should also mention that towards 2/3 of the way through phase 1, we're going to get some very detailed information from our OE that the Commission will carefully consider, but there's potentially an off-ramp there. We'll have more refined information on what the project rollout costs will be, and the value that's potentially in it and the complexities, and there's an opportunity for us to call it off right there. So the Commission is not faced with a $230,000 expense and there's nothing to gain from it. All the work that's done up to that point would always be useful for the city if we ever try to take it on again. So our commitment is really to get us into the $86,000 price range, $82,000 price range for phase 1, with an anticipation that we're going to finish this thing, because so far everything we've seen aligns with the direction that the Commission gave us some 2.5 years ago. So there's the project timeline. Here are the project costs identified in the proposal and in the contract. And then our recommendation is to authorize the city manager to execute an agreement with the Florida Municipal Power Agency. A copy of that agreement is enclosed to provide owner's engineer services for Newberry's AMI deployment. The city attorney's office has reviewed all of the contracts, the one with FMPA plus the contracts that FMPA proposes to have with Quanta, and they were satisfied with them. And in conclusion, or not necessarily conclusion, I'd like to introduce Mike McCleary. Mike, if you would. Mike is the Member Services Director, I believe, with FMPA. If he's not got that title, he merits that title, because he and his team are amazing. Every time I have a project meeting with them, I hang up and I think, oh my gosh, I don't know what we do without the type of support they're bringing. So Mike has been around a couple of successful deployments of AMI and has a presentation. He presented this to the board, FMPA board, just a week or so ago, and he can offer his insights, and he's available for questions because he's a little more independent than me. I might have allegiances to the project. Mike is just going to tell you the straight answer that you'd like to hear if you have any questions.
Thank you for the opportunity to share this information with you. Mike kind of gave you the broad strokes on all of this. And so when we began this process, a year or so ago, and sat down and kind of walked through it, it became apparent to us that we probably needed to break this up and make it in pieces, and part of kind of what Mike was talking about, that off-ramp, so that we knew the expectations and we could establish that moving forward. And so the owner's engineer is a big part of that process to make sure that there's an independent party that's helping you with it. Every vendor out there will tell you, oh, we can do that for you, and we'll give you all of the bells and whistles. I participated in one of those programs. We didn't get the whistles. All right? And it was because of not having that third party to go, wait a minute, those people aren't, it just wasn't done as well as it could have been. I applaud y'all for taking these steps to making sure that what you do is appropriate and that that you get what you're asking for, because the expectation part's a big part of this process. So basically with Quanta and their three parts, that first one is a not to exceed. That doesn't mean that they're going to spend all those dollars, but you want to have a line. This is as far as it's going to go before we reach our goals. And so there's expectations set throughout that process, and FMPA will participate with Newberry and the owner's engineer. And our our part in this conversation is to be able to sit at the table and say, yes, we've heard that, or wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. We're going to reach out to another one of our members that we know has gone down this path, and be able to have those conversations. And so our part is to kind of sit at the table with you and make sure that they're not speaking a foreign language to Newberry while this conversation is going on. And so the idea behind the owner as the engineer, kind of what we talked about before, having that disinterested third, it doesn't matter to them which vendor you choose and which technology you have. And all of that is so that the technology that's involved and the vendors that you deploy are kind of interdependent in how these different parts go. You have hardware, you have infrastructure, you have business practices, and all of these things are kind of symbiotic. They have to work together. And if we don't make those things work together, that's troublesome. And the problem is when vendor A comes in and says, I can do that for you, they have a vested interest from beginning to end. The owner's engineer can step back from that and help you to choose a more agnostic program, something that can allow you to grow. And so some of the things to consider when we talk about infrastructure, when we talk about utility infrastructure, we are accustomed to building something that's going to last 30, 40 years. This is technology. And technology, just think about how old your iPhone is, right? I mean, this is 10, which means it's only 10 or 12 years old. And look at the difference between now and then. So we don't know what this is going to look like 10 years from now, so we want to make sure that we poise you in the best position for that. So basically, you want to make sure that your system is prepared and that you're able to ask for the things that come in the future. As we've grown with our AMI programs, we've seen that this is what we thought we wanted, and the next thing you know, we found out we can do more and more. And so we want to make sure that your infrastructure and that your system is capable of growing and that we don't miss out on opportunities. And so between the three of us as a partnership between Newberry and the OE and FMPA, we believe that gives you your best opportunity for success.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. And so just as a caveat to let you know, we did announce this in our board meeting. We put it in our newsletter just literally today, that this process is relatively open to other entities. If there are some member utilities that are kind of on the verge of, it's really hard to get others to jump in, but we're putting it out there, and we've made this same process. Let them all know that they're welcome to join in and kind of help with the scaling of this.
Well, if we don't do this right, no one can say we didn't give it our 100% best. I want to thank the manager and Mayor Conrad. It takes a lot of leadership and confidence in yourself to step back and say, I don't have the expertise to guide us through that, and we need the expertise. And thank you, sir, for stepping in and helping us make sure, because this is a huge commitment for this board to make a decision on, and we need to make sure that if we go down this path, we do it well. And so I know that my confidence level greatly increases knowing that we have partners. Does the board have any questions for FMPA about this partnership, how this is going to work? Do you have any questions for Mike or Bill? Questions, Mr. Commissioner Martin?
Thank you, Mike, for the presentation.
Yes, sir.
You said there's other companies that you all work with kind of doing this OE work?
So
why Quanta?
So Quanta has done other work for us in some of our other business entities, in our generation specifically, and the depth of their expertise has been very impressive. And so where Quanta showed us a lot of experience relative to the AMI process, we worked with them professionally in our generation plants already, and we have processes in place, and we've been very pleased with their interaction and how they were responsive to us. And in this particular endeavor with the AMI, we know some of the companies that they have worked with, and we've been able to talk to them and understand that they have gotten the service from them. And they do have engineers that have worked with the vendors that we're talking about, so they understand the technology and how they interplay.
Mr. Manager, you want to add on to that?
I sure do. I just, specifically within Florida, we've observed a couple cities, and one Mike was with the city of Ocala when they did an AMI deployment. And their AMI deployment is very successful in many, many ways, but maybe one of their number one asks it failed to achieve. And so that was one of our biggest concerns moving forward, is how do we avoid that pitfall. The city of Leesburg really pioneered AMI, especially among mid-sized and smaller cities. They got a grant from the federal government and had a massive project which functions in many ways, but comes very short, especially in customer expectations, which is when I was pitching for the board and we were discussing it, seemed to be the most desirable characteristics of AMI is the benefits it gives to our customers in terms of making decisions on what to do with their utility consumptions. So after looking at the case studies of why utilities were struggling, we came to the conclusion that in order not to complete the project with that G, we still didn't quite meet that need. We feel like Quanta will step in and make sure we hit a home run in that area, that our customer expectations and all of our expectations of AMI are met.
Do you have a follow-up question, Commissioner Martin?
Mike, tell us what you have talked about with the other Mike here about where the dialogue funnels through, who's going to be points of contact. Are we going to be talking with Quanta and you? Or are we just talking to you, you're talking to them?
So all of our conversations have been three-way, where the way we anticipate the process is that Newberry, Quanta, and FMPA will be at the table together, and that the conversations will happen side by side.
Is that you or somebody else?
It's not just me. So relative, my background is operations and infrastructure. We have an engineer whose background is engineering and operations from that perspective, and we also have an economist who has actually worked for some of these contractors in the past, and now he works with FMPA, and so he understands the process of what happens in bid packages and how all those things function. And so between the three of us, we participate in the whole conversation. And so it's not just one of us, it's all three of us.
Commissioner Coleman.
So as Quanta, is it? Yes. It's pretty much like a. Is it pretty much like a construction manager? They're the experts of implementing everything. Is that?
Yes, construction manager it's a. I think it doesn't do justice to what they do, because we're not just doing a construction project. It's not like we have, here's your design, go forth and do. We have to first understand all of the where a lot of a lot of our members get tripped up is they say we would like this thing. A vendor comes in and says this is what it looks like, and then they show up and it's like, oh yeah, we didn't notice that this has to be replaced and that this part needs to be fixed and that one's hard to get to. And so there's so many variables throughout the process, and that's phase one, is to identify all of that stuff so that as we move forward, there's no surprises. There's no, in phase two, you find out, oh, I'm sorry, we didn't know it was going to be that hard. We have all of that lined out in the original phase, and so they're going to be part of the discovery process with us also. So it's not just, it's as much design and setting expectations and understanding that these are our goals and making sure that we're able to achieve them within the budget that's been set.
But to relate to a construction project, I would say that this is like hiring your construction manager before you finish the design and saying, we'd like you to take all of your construction expertise and work with our designer, our architect and engineer to make sure we don't do the silly mistakes that a contractor knows better than, that our architect and engineer don't.
Commissioner Glanzer.
Do you think that was part of the pitfall that Ocala had, that they didn't have the third party? Was that,
I would say yes. And they didn't have a third party to set the expectations and to ensure that they were met. I mean, they said up front, we want our OMS to work with our outage management system, to work with our automated meter infrastructure, and that has yet to happen to the level that they want. It is functional, right? So the vendor can say, oh, it functions, but it only functions at like 95%. And in the utility industry, 95% is just this side of failure. And so it's never worked to their, a lot of other things are working great. But that one thing that was a big expectation didn't happen. And so that's right, each utility we can show you some of the things where it didn't work out well. And so understanding that going forward on what are the level of expectations and make sure that we achieve those before that last check is signed off on.
Commissioner Martin.
In this relationship, you work for us and Quanta works for us, or you work for us and they work for you?
In this relationship, they work for you and us. And in that you're contracting through us to hire them, and they understand that ultimately y'all have to be the happy people. And so, but the flow is Newberry, FMPA, Quanta, relative to how the billing goes.
Okay.
But the decision-making process is Newberry has to approve anything that Quanta does, if that makes sense.
Okay. All right.
Well, and just so everybody at home who's listened to this conversation knows, my expectation at the end, my resident's going to have a user-friendly app that they can download and watch their usage rates and say, hey, shut it off. You know, I can't, right. I can't afford that this month. And they're going to be able to really track that. They can go on vacation and have a water leak and get a notification on their phone, and they can shut it off so they don't come back to a flood and a huge water bill.
And those are reasonable expectations.
I want to take a big load off of our city employees as well, but I'm thinking about the residents first and foremost. Any more questions from the board for either, we have Mayor Conrad here as well, who knows this probably just as well as anybody else, if anybody has any questions. Commissioner Martin?
Just one more comment. Back when we were talking about this, one of the features that I thought was very beneficial was the fact of being able to map out where we basically have equipment that is bigger than the job requires. And I wanted to make sure that that was still on the radar as far as right-sizing the equipment that we have so we're not wasting here and there.
That is definitely, and that's part of phase one, is making sure that that's part of the expectation, that technology is in place. Because it's easy for us to say we wish we had that, and if we fail to mention it and make sure that the meter and then the method of information delivery and then the method of parsing all those different parts, if they don't come back together, then next thing you know, we're like, well, what happened to that? And so that's why I applaud you're taking your time and making sure you get what you want. And so yes, that is amongst the checklist.
Okay, before I open it up to the public comment, Mayor Conrad, did you have anything you wanted to add, or did Mike cover it all beautifully?
Mike did it very well.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, does anybody sitting here in the public have anything they want to say about AMI? Please come down and talk to us. Please introduce yourself here to us.
Jace McGee, citizen.
Shaved off the goatee.
Yeah. I was involved with this from the beginning. Mayor Conrad and Manager New, Jamie and Dallas and I believe that was it. We all, we went on the trips. We got to see about, what the whole AMI experience was like. I got to talk to a lot of people, and I think you guys are doing the right thing, taking your time. That was one of the biggest things I heard was take your time, do your research, don't try to cut corners, or you end up with, you end up with these really fancy systems, but they don't work like they want you to. I think this is the right step in making sure we get what we want. The $1.4 million, I know there's probably people out there watching thinking, why is $1.4 million of my tax dollars being spent on this system? This is all, if I'm correct, this is all done through our enterprise fund. So this is only being spent on ratepayers who will see the benefit from that. I think that was something that I didn't hear. Of course, I haven't been to a lot of the meetings, but I wanted to make sure that people were aware that this is being spent by people that will be reaping the benefits from it. I would say probably the neatest thing, you were talking about leaks when you go off. We were in Kings Mountain, and there was a guy that was a meter reader. Well, he didn't have to go out and read meters anymore. He became a customer service rep. He would come in every morning, he'd pull a report, and it would show alarms, and he could go down that list, and it would give flow rates, constant flow rates for 24 hours, and he would go down that list and just call people up. Hey, Miss Smith, I think you've got a toilet that is leaking, and sure enough,
and he could tell what's leaking.
Yes, yeah. He told me he had been doing it for about 8 months, but just it's having that kind of information and being able to pass it on to your citizens. I think the return on investment is huge in that in the customer service realm. I know that we had talked about it some before. The other advantage on the electric side is that peak demand, and I know we had talked about doing some kind of nights and weekends, or an off-peak, giving discounts. So I just think there's a lot of really good things that can be implemented through AMI, and I'm just really, really happy to see you guys hopefully moving forward with this and seeing where it's going to take us. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you coming out here tonight. Commissioner Martin? We'll interrupt public comment for come back to the dais. Go ahead.
I believe we got some. Naeem Urgent, citizen of Newberry. A couple questions, Mr. Mayor, if as a concerned citizen. I was listening to the Honorable McGahee speak earlier about the meters. Currently, there's people out there that read the meters, but in this instance, this guy came back from the field to become customer service rep because that job pretty much became obsolete. I understand technology evolves, jobs evolve. For the citizens of Newberry that are concerned about those employees currently that are doing that, is that something that they are going to be promised? I'm not a worker of the city. I'm just speaking as a concern for them. Are they looking at, hey, thanks for your service to the city of Newberry, but you're not going to be working anymore because we don't need that many customer service reps? Because realistically, how many customer service reps are we going to need for a city our size? I like the technology. I think it's great as a homeowner. Heck, I even like the whole fact that you can detect a leak. I mean, that's pretty huge. Instead of having to call out and figure out, or wait until your next bill shows up and have to call city and argue about your bill. That's a big benefit. But I look at the citizens and our current work staff and the impact on that. Has the city looked into those numbers and projected what that would be?
I'm not sure we're far enough down the line to make that. Mike might know, but I can tell you for sure that the city of Newberry has enough going on that sending somebody out to read a meter, I'd much rather than working on any of the innumerable other jobs that are out there. Mr. Manager?
Mr. Mayor, actually, it's one of the areas where Newberry is going to benefit more than the average community. Unlike most communities, we don't have any meter readers. Once a month when we read meters, we take linemen and water technicians, and they go read meters. And so consequently, they're not doing what they're paid well and what they're trained well to do. Meter reading is a great career opportunity, but it doesn't take the higher level training that our linemen currently have, and so it pulls them away from those more critical duties. So we see this as a real upgrade in efficiency to allow our linemen to remain full-time as linemen and not have to spend 2 days out of their 20-day work month reading water meters or electric meters.
So we have the highest paid meter readers in the state of Florida.
And that answers, and I thank you, Mr. Mayor, and the city for that explanation, because I as a citizen, I'm not aware that we don't have any I see the guy come out of his truck and read my water meter. I'm not thinking he's a lineman, and that's great to know that here we are to have them back into what they're doing.
Yeah.
So thank you for that explanation.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. Other commissioner or other public comment?
Though I will not use this program because of where I live, what is that going to
Would
cost?
you introduce yourself,
Oh,
Ms.
sorry,
Debbie?
Deborah
Sorry.
Campbell. If I'm not going to use this program, what is it going to cost each citizen in Newberry? Since
It's
going
only
to
going
be
to cost the people who are on the system.
exactly how much, sir?
Well, we'll know that when we get farther in the process. We're in the 1.2 to 1.4 range, and it'll be amortized over some number of years. So, but the main thing is how much is it going to save the citizens of Newberry
And, Mr.
when
Mayor,
they get that power to use it.
it really depends on your payback period, but we estimate that on a 15-year payback period, that a electric, water, and wastewater customer will pay around $2 a month for the service.
Okay.
And
sounds
when you think
reasonable.
about the potential to conserve water,
Oh.
one thing we haven't said that the added years of life that will give our infrastructure, because we're not wasting the usage, which then lots of people can benefit.
Oh, I understand, because the citizens in Newberry Page and the water issues here have been problems for years, so maybe that'll answer some of the problems. But that's a reasonable price.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Any other citizen comment? Hearing none, Commissioner Martin, you yielded the floor tonight.
I was wondering, with the expense, is there any history that we show in the utility sale market that this actually adds value? Like if we were putting in a pool at a house and we go to resell the house, we may spend $50,000 on a pool, but it only adds $30,000 of value. Is there an added value here to the value of our system?
As a whole, it's going to add value to your system in your ability to see your system remotely. And to add dollars to that is difficult because of it's a service level, and kind of to what Mr. New was saying, it's more of you're saving your people from having to do multiple trips, and when we see our business case come back from the OE, we'll be able to better quantify the numbers you're asking for. But in general, what you're seeing is you'll have a communication infrastructure in which you're able to see what's going on in your system and not have to go there to find out.
What I was asking was, does that add value to somebody who, if somebody shows up tomorrow wanting to buy our utility
Yes, sir.
system, for
It
instance?
definitely will add value and to that. It doesn't happen often enough that I can say that
I
for
wouldn't
every
think
dollar
so,
you
but-
spend, you're going to get $1 back.
Okay.
But there's no doubt about it would add value to the prospective buyer.
And, Mr. Mayor, I would just also offer that once upon a time, the justification for these systems was an extreme. They have to pay for themselves dollar to dollar. And over the last 5 to 10 years, what people are seeing is that there's a lot of benefit that's not direct dollar benefit. But I would say typically those business cases still occur where, well, how much savings, real dollar savings, are we going to realize? Normally that comes up between 50 to 65 cents on the dollar. You're going to truly save. And then somewhere in that 65 cents to 100, that becomes the soft benefits of just higher levels of service, give your customers better access to data. They may save, $5 a month because they change their habits. Now they can see on a day-to-day basis what's going on. If you'll remember, when we send you a bill, it is for utilities that were consumed 60 days ago. And people can't remember, well, I've got a high energy bill. They don't remember that they had their guests in and they kept the AC down super low for a week while they had relatives in, or that they filled the pool in April. And so this allows them to see, or they have a leak. If you have a leak in your house through the toilet, it can cost you an extra $40 a month in water and wastewater, and you won't even see it until 60 days after it occurs. With this type of system, to former Commissioner McGee's point, we can see it the next day. If your water meter runs 24 hours a day, every 15-minute period for 24 straight hours, there's going to be an alarm. It'll text you. You can set your account up to say, I want you to text me if you see my water meter working every 15-minute period for 24 hours a day, because that shouldn't happen. We eventually turn off all the water, and you can stop a water leak and save 60 days worth of consumption that you didn't want.
Commissioner Glanzer?
Thank you. I just wanted to give a real-life example to Ms. Campbell. A family member of ours had a toilet that was leaking, and unbeknownst to them, and their water bill was, I think, $90, which is about $70 more than it should have been, and they had to pay that a couple months till they found out that there was actually a leak. So, I mean, I think it's a great savings for citizens for $2 a month to be able to save something like that.
Commissioner Farnsworth?
There has been some talk about like solar farms and possibility coming to the city way in the future. Will this system like this be compatible with solar energy?
Yes, sir. It will definitely be compatible with solar energy. And when we talk about those types of things, you're talking about a metering. The meter itself is able to register in either direction. Is really what it does, and really it doesn't go forwards and backwards as much as it registers flow in each direction. So you can say we sold 10, we gained 5, whatever that number is. And yes, and that's the system will be able to support that.
So even if somebody has their own personal solar panels, it'll still register all that?
Yes, sir. And as a caveat to that, if you don't already have a program, I would encourage you to have one that says this is what happens if you have a solar panel on your roof, whatever that means. But that's a completely different conversation.
Okay. Yeah, let's not go there now.
And we have that program. Okay. Any further questions from the dais? Any further questions from the public? Okay, the appropriate motion would be to authorize staff to enter into a contractual agreement with the FMPA. I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, a second from Commissioner Farnsworth. Any questions on the motion on the floor? Last chance, public. Any questions on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Well, Mr. New, you left it on the agenda for discussion, and I'm going to open up the discussion by saying I'm fairly frustrated. As the board will remember, at our last joint meeting with the BOCC, both of our boards jointly gave both of our staffs a 45-day window to bring back the Streets and Roads agreement. And as far as I can tell, that agreement has been about 98% completed since we had that meeting almost a year ago. And I understand you got 2 different sets of staff and 2 different sets of attorneys and 2 different sets of elected officials, and all of that leads to red tape and questions and problems. But we were supposed to vote on this tonight, which would have been convenient because I'm already going to the county to talk to them next Tuesday. So Mike, tell us where we are and tell us what we need to do to bring this issue to a close before our next meeting.
Well, thank you for the introduction, Mayor, and I and staff take your disappointment at where we are very seriously, and we never like to disappoint our elected officials, and you and I have had a lot of communication about this happening this month, and so we are going to work very diligently. We worked all the way up till about 4:30 this afternoon when I just made the call that I don't think that it would be fair to the commission to give an agreement that still had some areas left out of it, that I thought we needed 2 more weeks. And a caveat of 2 more weeks is that we need to spend every day for the next week working on this with the zest that we worked on it for the last 5 days. This has been a nearly 10-hour a day, including Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays for people on both teams. And I think that we're really close, as you said, 98%. The technical side of it, the logistical things that staffs can work out, are in place, and there's no disagreement there that I'm aware of. But there's a lot of caveats in how this works, and taking those caveats and getting them written into the agreement from an attorney's perspective is quite a challenge. And I've spent a lot of time working with the city attorney on this issue, and I've been immersed in it for more than a year, and I understand the technical side of it really, really well. And as I'm trying to explain it, I realize how complex it is for the layperson. And I will give assurances that our counterparts working for county staff are just as well versed in the agreement and are working just as diligently, and they've understood it. And I would tell you that since our county commission meeting where we were given the 45 days, working with county staff has been very straightforward. They have been easy to work with, and once we can articulate what our issue, they've been very agreeable with us. So that's kind of a long build-up. I'm going to take you through a quick, because I think this is better to just apprise you of where we are. And I guess I should introduce Jim Harriet. He is he's the assistant deputy county manager. He's in the audience tonight. He thought we were going to be considering this, but he wanted to kind of hang around and see what comments and see our presentation. So he's in the audience with us tonight.
Before you get started, Mike, I know that I've been in communication with you guys, so you guys understand this, but as the city manager said, it is really complex, and I've had that exact experience of trying to explain to somebody what's going on, and when you try to explain everything, you realize exactly how complex it is. So if at any point tonight, any of us or anybody in the audience gets a little lost, we will have a question and answer section at the end. Jot down those questions. And I just want to make sure, again, because I am frustrated, but I also understand that in that time frame, we had Canterbury come up. That took everybody's attention, and both of our staffs and legal teams were very focused on that issue for a good 6 months, somewhere in there. So it's not like it completely dwindled. I do understand why we didn't hit the 45-day mark, but I was very, very eager to hit the mark tonight. So go ahead and take us through slowly.
Yes, sir.
Through
Yes,
this.
sir. And I would just tell you that I handed out this morning. This is kind of the agreement where it stands today. And I got this from the county this morning, and generally we're in agreement. There are a couple questions that I have because some of the changes that the county attorney made had what I consider to be some ripple effects, things that we didn't anticipate, and so led to questions, and we decided that we just couldn't get them resolved and into the document today and be fair to both staffs and both commissions. So I'll kind of take you quickly through where we are in terms of, I won't go through all of this. Here's the background. Started in 1992 with some interlocal agreements for we're going to maintain each other's roads for the benefits of efficiency. And we've amended that interlocal 7 times through 2010. And we've been talking about this with county staff for about 4 years now. The major tenants, this is in your staff report as well. This is generally what we've agreed to. Both staffs are in agreement with this. It's the ability to get it into written form with the fact that we have an agreement and 7 amendments back there that have some impact on all this. But collector roads that the city owns, which is essentially Southwest 45th, 46th, Southwest 46th Avenue, will be transferred back to the county all the way from County Road 337 south to 170th. That's about 5 miles of roadway. Local roads that the county owns but are currently being maintained by us will be transferred to the city after 2 conditions are met. 75% of the property fronting the roads will be incorporated, annexed into the city, and that the road will be improved to a minimum of chip seal. So, another tenet is this interlocal, while it speaks to a certain group of roads, is intended to be the basis for future road transfers. After we get through the roads that are identified in this agreement, we think that this is a good recipe for handling the next roads a little bit further down the road. I hate to use that.
And before you move on from that point, Mike, I want to make sure everybody remembers that roughly the 13 miles that started this conversation 2 years ago that we were maintaining for the county, and now everybody agrees we've been maintaining, we are being paid in loft to now maintain those roads, which at the beginning of this conversation was, for us, the end of the conversation. We just wanted to be paid to maintain it or the county to take it back. So that box for us has been checked already at this point. We are being paid through loft to maintain those 13 miles. Mr.
Correct.
Manager.
And those 7 agreements that I referred to roughly resulted in there's one agreement with 6 amendments, resulted in the city maintaining about almost 14 miles of county road, and the county maintaining a little short of 3 miles, 2 and some change of city. So there was this discrepancy. That's how the whole thing started some 4 years ago. And we've addressed that through the agreement. So here are the road transfers that are going to go from the county to the city. So it's a whole laundry list. So Southwest 226 and 202 were recently chip sealed. They're ready to go. 250th Street is also known as Watermelon Pond Road. I know a lot of you will be thrilled for Watermelon Pond Road to be chip sealed and come fully into the city's inventory. Watermelon Pond Road is one of a couple of roads in here that are partially owned by the city and partially owned by the county. The next one that meets that criteria is Holder Grade, is how we know it. It's a series of different roads if you lay it all out, but we refer to it as Holder Grade. Again, mostly owned by the city. We own more than half of it, and the county owns some 40% of it. Southwest 15th Avenue, which is already chip sealed, will come to the city. Southwest 30th, from 337 to the county line, that's the road that we get the complaints from Mr. Yes, that's his street. Southwest 46th Avenue from 337 west is a similar looking street. 186th is off south of State Road 26, where Newberry Christian School almost was, and it goes south all the way to 46th Avenue. We own a half mile. The county owns 2.5 miles. And then 46th Avenue, which is north up closer to where I live, the county's going to transfer 2 miles of that. So the total road segments that the county would be transferring to the city is 18.9 miles.
And Mr. New, that section of 30th actually is that the section that already belongs to Newberry, and we're agreeing to keep it? That's a different section.
That's a different section.
Okay. The
section that you're referring to is between State Road 45 and County Road 337, which is already chip sealed. So these are the roads that we will be transferring from the city to the county, which is essentially State Road 45. If you'll remember in our discussions with the county board, the kind of agreement was local streets come to us, collectors go to you, and this is what we ended up with, those 2 lists. And then here's a map for you all to view this. The different colors mean different things. If it's purple, those are city streets that the county's maintaining. If they're orange or blue, those are segments that the city is maintaining, but they're county owned. And so all of those blue sections and orange sections would be coming to the city, and in the purple sections, the only one that would be going to the county is Southwest 46th Avenue, which is the may not be shown, or it's the lowest blue bar on there. So anyway, it's a map. If you have any specific questions about it, be happy to view any of those roads, but I'll have to use a finger because this pointer doesn't work on the TV screens. See what else we have. So in summary, the agreement will result in 18.9 miles of paved or chip-sealed county roads will be transferred to the city. 5 miles of paved city street will be transferred, or paved street will be transferred to the county. 12 miles of the the county will chip seal 12 miles of road at an estimated cost of $1.3 million, and the city will chip in for 4 miles of road to be chip sealed at an estimated cost of $582,000. And I guess I should go back and just touch base on the why the city is chip sealing roads. If we look down this list, Southwest 250th Street with the double asterisk, Holder Grade with the double asterisk, and Southwest 186th Street are both streets that are all roads that, I said both, are all three roads that the county owns a portion and the city owns a portion. We maintain them all, but the county owns portions and we own portions. So the agreement is that the county will chip seal their portion, the city will chip seal its portion. In the end, we'll get 100% chip sealed road. So we just took in that agreement to determine, what everybody's skin in the game is or cost will be. The 12 miles of road that the county, if this agreement moves forward, would be responsible for chip sealing is worth $1.3 million, and the 4.9 miles that are city streets that would be chip sealed would cost us an estimated $582,000. The way that's going to work on the agreement is that the county is going to take the lead on chip sealing them, and prior to when they're in the planning processes, they're going to give us notice by May the 1st so that we can get it in our budget process that they plan to chip seal this road. And so when they give us that notice by May the 1st, we're going to advise you guys through the budget process, and we're going to figure out financially how we're going to deal with that, whether we pay it out of reserves or local option fuel taxes, or whether we borrow the money. But we'll have that through our budget processes, so we're ready for it. And then just before you ask that question, if they fail to give us notice by May the 1st, then they are simply willing to proceed, and they realize that they will get, since they missed the notice, that it'll just be the following fiscal year that when we get the funding, that we will then pay them. So they may float some of those roads with an expectation, more than an expectation, with a responsibility or an obligation on the city to reimburse them. And right now we're dealing with estimates. The way the agreement now reads is that we have these estimated costs going forward, but in the end the county will have a total exact cost, and we'll just pay our fair share by percentage of the total project cost.
And they've agreed not to do all of our 4.9 all at one time. Commissioner Martin.
Has there been some discussion about not having two crews out doing this work at the same time? Is it going to be that one of us takes a lead on
That is exactly right. The county's going to perform the work. We're just paying. They're the contractor. We're the check writer for our portion. They'll be the check writer for their portion. That concludes my presentation.
And Mr. New, there was a section of 30th that both the county and the city agreed was a collector road.
Correct.
That is not chip sealed, but we've agreed to keep it on the agreement that they would chip seal it, and that was one of the 2% that we had to, because in the contract we were trying to get a date certain, because for every other road, none of this happens until they want to chip seal the road, and then that triggers this contract to take effect.
That's
except for that section. Was
That's
that
correct.
section on that list?
It is, and
Because it falls into a separate category. It's already a city road, but we
That's
both
right.
agree it's a collector road. It should be the county road.
Mr. Mayor, in my haste to put this together, I did not include it on a list, but I can
But it's
show
in that $600,000, or no, because we're not paying for that
Yes.
one.
The segment of Southwest 30th
Right.
between
Hang on one second,
State Road
fellas.
45, Southwest 30th between State Road 45 and Southwest 202 is an unpaved road segment that in our joint meeting, the county commission agreed that's a collector road and it's going to transfer to the county. Well, both staffs during our negotiation felt like that it really isn't a collector road. It looks more like a local road. So rather than transfer it as a collector and add what looks like a local street to us to the county's inventory, we negotiated, and their staff has agreed to, they would go ahead and chip seal it at their cost, but we would retain it into our inventory. And the agreement currently states that that would happen within 12 months of execution of the agreement.
Okay, so just so everybody's clear, if you're sitting at home and watching this and you say, "Oh, that's awesome," my road's on that list and it's going to get chip sealed. Well, we still have to vote on it. The county has to vote on it, and then it's on the county's timeline for when they want to begin, when they want to actually chip seal. And they certainly, most likely, would not do all 13 miles of road right away. They would space it out. I believe that this is an extremely revolutionary concept. I believe we are offering the county a way to begin to reduce their road mileage, which means that they can take their funding that they have to maintain the roads and focus on roads that are actually county roads. I think it's a wonderful partnership. And Mr. New, correct me if I'm wrong, But it seems like the primary issue remaining in that 2% is what happens once we're done with these first 13. Because we have a wonderful model for how this could transfer and what would happen to make the transfer. But remember when I said those 13 miles were being paid to maintain in Loft. Our deal with the county and 8 municipalities around the county that participate in the local option fuel tax is that money is distributed based on road miles and population. Is it a 50-50 straight split or somewhere near there? But it only accounts for those 13 miles. So if the county says, well, that's great, we've done these 13 miles and here we're ready to do another 2, there's no funding mechanism for us to be paid to maintain those roads. And right now, until the 10 years of Loft is up, that percentage would stay the same. There's nowhere for that money to come except out of the county's percentage, which makes sense because they've argued that that money should be spent on road lanes, right? Lane miles and population. So if they're giving us 2 miles, right? That's, I don't know, probably 0.00001% of their section of Loft. But that's our stance. And that's, I think, is sort of the last hurdle that we need. What happens once we're done these first 13? My suggestion was we're probably not going to be done with these first 13 for another 10 years. We don't have to solve the world today. Let's make this agreement for these 13 years and use it as a model. That way, when Loft comes back up, we can have those negotiations when Loft comes back up. It's a great plan. It's a great model. It seems like it could be a plan that is specific for these 13 and that we have every intention of using to move through our road miles as soon as we can figure out this question of if the Loft is the county program for road maintenance, well, why would we accept deeds if we're not going to be getting our fair share of the funding mechanism to take care of that? Is there another big issue that's looming out there with this that we have to address, or is that pretty much the last meaty issue?
I think that is the most significant stuff for us to reconcile, and I guess I would point out the county certainly seems to understand our perspective on that, and they have a very valid counterpoint about their funding levels. So we're not at loggerheads over it. It's more of trying to find the win-win, and I think per our recent discussions, it's probably to your suggestion of let's just solve that at a later date. We'll just kind of set that whole thing aside, and we'll recognize that we'll deal with that once we finish this agreement, or once we get well along the way to this agreement.
Well, and in my conversations with the county commission, that's certainly the feeling, a high level of frustration that we haven't got here yet, and a feeling like we don't have to solve every problem today. We can solve this problem, which will take us 10 years down the road to do this, and then we can address these issues then. We also have, according to state law, the Alachua County and City of Gainesville are supposed to revisit Loft every 2 years.
Correct.
So there are lots of other opportunities for this conversation to assert themselves. Now, I'm not sure those conversations have ever actually taken place on a 2-year cycle, but they are supposed to.
Not historically, but I think we agreed to Loft last
We're 1 year
February,
into
March.
it.
So we're 1 year in. I don't anticipate that Hawthorne or Waldo is going to let 2 years get around and sneak up on us. I figure those conversations are going to get started as soon as the time clock says it's relevant or required to.
Are there any questions from the board on this? Because we're not voting on it tonight, unfortunately. It's more of a let's catch up and explain what's going on. Okay, Mr. New, does the public have any questions? I know that this is kind of a big one, a lot to wrap your brain around, pretty complicated. So don't forget to introduce yourself, Ms. Debbie. There you go. You mentioned it maybe once.
Maybe.
What kind of pictures did you?
Okay. The last
cuts are not cut out. Mike and I have been over this, and I know the county and y'all are trying to work on this. But 10 years, I'll be dead. Okay, that's fine. No. The conditions of the road, the water doesn't run off. If it was chip sealed, if you look on there, the chip seal would float away tomorrow. It's solid mud water. The road's this high on each side. Water does not run uphill, and I'm sure you know that. The road has been neglected. A lot of roads have been neglected here. There's been no fill put on that road ever in the last 6 years, 7 years. Okay? I've heard Mr. Norfleet doesn't want you to cut out through there. And I've talked to Tripp, and I've talked to Ed, and I've talked to Jessica, and they have no problem with it. And I've told Mr. New this too. I'm not happy with the way the road's been maintained, as you can see. It's very dangerous. I mean, you're driving, and then there's so many new people that live on that road that we don't know. And the next thing you know, they just come flying by you, and then the next thing you're fishtailing at each other. I mean, you have to go 15 miles an hour because of this.
Our light's not changing there, Ms. Debbie, but it should be blinking yellow at this point. I don't want it to go straight from green to red on you. Say,
it's okay. You know, I'm always beating a dead horse.
Well, we appreciate you, Ms. Debbie, and hopefully we'll have a program soon that can address these concerns. Much longer, much longer. Come on down.
Naeem Richards, citizen of Newberry. So my question is this: Newberry is one of the most we're growing at a rate that's amazing, and I'm happy about that. However, if we don't succeed at taking care of this now, while we're this small, it's going to become a bigger issue, I believe, Mr. Mayor, in the very near future. I mean, I could see this, if we don't start taking care of this now. I mean, what do you guys want me to be running for city commission to go down to county commissioners and get them straightened out? I mean, do you need me to go down there and tell Byerly, you know, what's going on? If that's what it takes, then I'll run for city commission. But come on, I mean, our citizens now, we're at 6,000 people. If we can handle this now, I think it's a lot easier to handle this now as a small issue than it becoming a bigger issue when we're 8,000, 10,000 deep and this place is packed. That's just my 2 cents. I don't know what's holding it up. I don't know why our hands are tied or their hands are tied. And honestly, at this point, it's just like, let's just get it done. I don't care what has to be done. As a citizen, I'm just at the point of like, if the money's there, let's just get it done, get it over with, and do it right. I hate hearing this chip seal and it flies off, or if it rains. That's, you know, my dad used to say, you know, do it right the first time so you don't have to go back and do it again.
Just to clarify, I've never heard of chip seal flowing off because of rain before. That was a new one.
Yeah, I don't know how that works. I live on a paved road. I bought it paved, so I would be kind of upset if my roads weren't maintained because that's what I purchased into. However, I do feel for the citizens that are looking for an answer here. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Other residents want to speak to the roads deal. I think as Alachua County, any resident that lives in the donut of Alachua County can tell you when you don't maintain the roads, the problem exacerbates, and then it does get away from you. I think this is a plan that we have worked with the county on, where we can all begin to focus on our part of the county and more energy on our parts, and collectively, with Newberry able to take care of its roads a little better, and any other city that wants to take care of this can take care of its roads a little better. That takes miles of roads off the county's plate. They can focus on their roads. Slowly and surely, we might be able to do what each of us can do to turn the tide here on this issue. So, Mr. Manager, I want it back at the next meeting.
Absolutely. Let me speak to where we're at on this just real quickly, because it kind of is on my plate right now. to take what's been crafted, I think, to a great degree by Mr. Harriet and Mr. New to come up with something. And I do believe that the county staff and the city staff is working very hard and diligently to come up with a agreement. We're getting rid of 7 agreements, which are pretty simplistic agreements, in favor of a overall master agreement that is intended to last for a long period of time. And it is very complex. The drafts that I've looked through, and I think Sylvia Torres also shares this view, whatever we come up with, whatever is drafted, we want to be very clear about what it is and what the effect of this agreement and what it means. And right now, you have to go to a number of different tables and a number of different places in the agreement to try to track what it actually means. And in my view, it's pretty difficult to discern what it means. And I don't anticipate that our two governments will be at odds with each other. We've been at odds in the past, but you know, we are on a very good footing right now. But I want to make sure that if Mr. Harriet's replacement, Mr. New's replacement, my replacement at some stage can look at this 10 years, 15, 20 years from now and say, okay, I understand what they meant. I think Mr. New knows what it means. Mr. Harriet knows what it means. Can some third party discern exactly what these two parties agreed to in the form of a written document? And making that clear is a bit of a challenge. And there are some unintended consequences contained in the agreement that need to be cleared up. Otherwise, we take on additional financial responsibility that may not have been the intended part. And for example, my discussions with Sylvia Torres there, we can't really reference a funding mechanism in the gas tax distribution because the city of Newberry really isn't even a party to that. That's the city of Gainesville and Alachua County. So putting that into this agreement, I tend to agree with her that that's, now we have, as you recollect, on the gas tax process, there is an administrative hearing that could be put in place by parties besides Gainesville and Alachua County. And we talked about that procedure under the regimen of Florida law. So there are things we could do in the gas tax negotiation that we don't want to do, and I don't think the county wants to go through that process, and nor does the city of Gainesville. But we just need to make it very clear as to if we're taking out provisions for gas tax funding, then if the city has taken on road miles, and this is going to serve as the basis and the model for automatic transfers of road systems in the future, and we're taking on additional responsibility without any funding mechanism, that could have a pretty severe consequence to the city of Newberry. So we want to have some provision in there that talks about that. Now, Mr. Harriet, in previous meetings, he comes out of Sarasota, if I remember correctly, and he has talked about other mechanisms. There's lots of other ways to handle this. And one of the things that he brought up that I thought was very creative for our area, it's something that he's very used to down in Sarasota area, which was CDD funding, community development districts. So there's other ways to do it, and I think we can be very general in the way that we specify, but there needs to be some sort of funding mechanism placed in the agreement if we're going to have these automatic transfers. That has to be, in my belief, a part of it. I think the county staff is saying, yes, we're fine with that. We just can't say it in the way that was in the agreement initially, which was it has to be gas tax funding. I think you're right. That is one of the hurdles that we need to get over. And I also want to just try to clarify, as a matter of fact, we're going to spend a little bit of time after the meeting, because Andrea has been in the back working on this agreement, just trying to make it a little more clear and a little easier to work through. So if I'm a third party looking at this, it's a little easier to, doing all that by tonight was just going to be a little too challenging. The other thing that I think, in fairness to the county, passing something tonight that's had amendments that we made today to it without them reviewing it was, we believe, was bad form. So we just said, Mike made the call. Look, let's try to bring it to the commission at some point in the future, and I supported that for those reasons, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, I understand it's complicated. I understand the 45-day time limit that both of our boards set was perhaps unrealistic at the time, and I understand that Canterbury got in the way, and that was intense months of feverish negotiations. But at the end of the day, it still has almost been a year. So at some point, we either have to make the decision that we have a deal or we can't make a deal, and let's move our attention and energies onto something else. Because if we can't come to an agreement on this for whatever reason, you know, I want our limited staff focus to be on AMI, USDA, AgTech. I don't, you know, at some point, you know, we got to call uncle. So 2 weeks after a year seems like a reasonable time frame to say, okay, here's the line. Let's just make a decision. We can do this or we cannot do this. If there are hurdles we can't cross, be honest with the board and tell them that. All right, we'll move on to the community block grant housing. Ms. Wendy, are you leading us through that?
Last item, at least from staff. The block grant, you have before you the recommendation from the ranking committee having to do with the community development block grant housing rehabilitation award that the city has recently gotten notification of. And the housing rehabilitation programs have a very intensive administrative program. You need someone who's very experienced with the housing administration. So we went ahead, we advertised, we did an RFP for the professional services that out there in the Alachua County today, sent it to the minority and women-owned business enterprise, and there's a list that the county has. We used that. We also sent out to the vendor list that we have through our bid system. So we put that all out there, and we have 2 proposals. So the ranking committee went ahead and had a publicly noticed meeting after we received those applications and reviewed those at that meeting on the 22nd. And the Summit Professional Services came out first, and that is what the ranking committee is recommending to you, that you would approve the rankings as such, and then that you'd authorize staff to go ahead and negotiate a contract with the top-ranked firm and authorize the city manager to go ahead and sign that. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them for you.
Okay, does the board have any questions? Commissioner Farnsworth?
Is it common to only have 2 proposals?
It can happen, and that's why the fact that we sent out this other notification, there were 1,940 vendors who were noticed, and over 83 different minority and women-owned businesses that were directly emailed. And plus we put the notice in the paper. So those are the applicants we received.
Is there any, do you know any reasons for such a low turnout?
I mean, it may be that because there are certain companies that do a lot of work in community development block grant administration. You know, I don't know, but I don't know whether there's an
Is that
agreement.
an uncommon number, Wendy? It seems like we never really have a whole lot of people apply.
We never usually we don't.
Yeah.
We haven't gotten much response on that, but we did make extra effort to make sure we sent out plenty of notice this time as well, again, and those were the applications we received. But it's hard to probably compete. You know, if they know that a certain company has been doing a lot of work for a jurisdiction, perhaps that makes it hard, because Summit, for example, has done this work all over the state, and they've just over 90 different block grants and state grants they administer very successfully, very large grants for local communities. So it would probably be hard for a lot of companies to compete with something like that, but there are others that do that kind of thing and just focus on that.
No, I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Other questions for Wendy? Commissioner Martin.
The fee for them is part of the grant. It's not additional money out of our pocket.
Right,
Correct.
it's funded through the grant, and also Summit was had the lower bid as well on that amount too.
Any further questions? Okay, the appropriate motion would be to do those three things. One, approve the rankings of the RFP committee. Two, authorize staff to negotiate a contract with a top-ranked firm. If negotiations fail, staff will notify the city commission, begin negotiating with a second-ranked firm. And three, authorize the city manager to execute a contract with a firm. Do I have a motion?
I move to accept those staff recommendations.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Glanzer. A second from Commissioner Farnsworth. Any questions from the dais on the motion on the floor? Does the public have any questions, comments about the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Motion passes unanimously. And we will move on to item F, the Urban Services Report in support of a referendum. This is kind of a strange thing. You're really just, and I'm going to get this wrong, so I'll just let Brian say it. We're just offering support. See, I already got it wrong. He gave me the look. Like, that's close. That's
Thank you,
close.
Sharon. It is an urban services report which supports the intended ordinance for an annexation referendum ballot that will be brought forward.
So 2 layers of support. You're supporting. Did y'all follow that? It goes to the county, right? We get the data and we send it to the county.
Yes, sir, Mr. Bear. We, once this is reviewed by the commission and approved for submittal to the county, then we'll transmit it immediately to the county. They get to review it. And then it's the first official step in the process, and then there's a timeline of additional steps along the way.
Okay. So any questions to Brian? This is the item we had to move. It's the first thing we have to do for the referendum. Any questions about it? Do I have a motion to approve the services report? Do you have a presentation here, Brian?
If the commission would like to hear it, I have one prepared. I'll try to go through it as quickly, and maybe some of the mud from the previous
Go ahead. Yeah.
will clear.
Well, not about the letter of support.
The
If everybody's comfortable with it, we'll move on. Everybody's comfortable with it, Brian. Okay, so do I have a motion to approve the letter of support? I have a motion from Commissioner Glanzer. I have a second from Commissioner Coleman. Any questions about the letter of support from the dais? Does the public have any questions about the letter of support? Mr. Manager, you want to go through the presentation?
No, sir. But this is what the requested action is that the commission approve the urban services report. This report supports our request for an annexation referendum. It's a requirement of the annexation referendum, and so I think the motion should be to approve this report and authorize staff to transmit it to Alachua County.
See, I told you I was going to get the first support wrong. Do I have that amended support, Commissioner Glanzer? And do you amend your second, Commissioner Coleman? Okay. Any commission on the amended, any commission comments on the amended motion on the dais? Any public comment on the amended motion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Wait, I got one thing.
Commissioner Coleman?
I have family in that area where I just want to disclose that.
Okay, Mr. Attorney?
Okay, thank you.
Good question, always good to check. Okay, hearing nothing from the public, nothing from the dais, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously, and we're on to comments, Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Great presentation, Brian.
It's our favorite comment.
Mr. Mayor, first I'd like to just advise the commission that last Thursday night at the Newberry-Jonesville Chamber of Commerce annual banquet, the city of Newberry was recognized as their Member of the Year. I think that's a pretty prestigious honor for government to get. You have the plaque. It was a surprise to staff. We're just in there supporting them any way that we can, and in keeping with the commission's directive that we spur economic development, and we think partnering with the chamber is in keeping with that directive, and somewhere along the lines we put in enough effort to get that recognition. We'd like to point out there's a lot of worthy enterprises in Newberry for that award, and also the the Citizen of the Year was Trip Norfleet. Thought that was awesome. Tomorrow night, there's a neighborhood meeting. It'll be in the municipal building. It's a neighborhood meeting related to the acquisition of Canterbury and the transition of it into Alachua County's Agricultural Activities Center. So it's just it's an informal meeting. County staff is going to kind of pitch what their vision is, and they're soliciting feedback from residents of the Newberry Oaks and the community at large as to what we'd like to see, what Newberryans and Newberry Oak residents would like to see in their activity center.
Before we move on from that one, I haven't had a chance. Certainly, any of our commission is welcome to attend that meeting. It's a county meeting. Anybody that does go, I would just ask you to remember, especially if there's multiple commissioners there, to be very aware of who's in earshot when you have conversations. And you may want to be very aware of the conversations you have, because ultimately those things will end up coming in front of you. So this board has already had 2 public meetings to discuss this. Some of you have already made comments there. So again, I don't know who's planning on attending it. This is not, there's no expectation that you're there. This is the county's meeting. We've told them that we've had 2 meetings. We've heard from the neighborhood. But it's a box that they want to check, since it's going to be their facility. They want to hear directly themselves. But just make sure we have those considerations, especially if more than one of you show. I believe that Commissioner Hersom is planning to attend, which makes sense because he lives in the neighborhood. I'll be there as well. So if that's enough representation, feel free to not come, and we'll be a lot cleaner when it comes to sunshine law. Okay, Mr. New.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next Monday and Tuesday, I'll be leaving Monday afternoon and spending all day Tuesday in Tallahassee, where we've set up meetings with several committee chairs to review Newberry's legislative agenda for 2019 and the appropriations request we submitted. I think I sent copies to the commission, the appropriations request that we've made of the Florida legislature. We're also going to try to get some meeting time with Agriculture Commissioner Freed and her staff to review our USDA request, and hopefully someone from the governor's staff to discuss USDA, AgTech, all of the projects that we're working on. Next Thursday, the 7th, at 7 p.m. It's at 6:30 in the municipal building. Taste of Newberry-Jonesville and the State of the City address. And that concludes my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Mr. Turner?
None, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Commissioner Coleman.
I wanted to talk about the opioid epidemic. It's not only just our teenagers. Yesterday, I lost a very dear friend, beautiful lady. She was 51 years old and had got into a car wreck about 5 years ago. And not blaming the doctors, but she was always in pain, so she always got prescribed. And it got so bad once the doctor said, no, we're not doing that, you're abusing it. She was on the streets buying it from whoever. Her kidneys shut down and her liver failed her, and she's gone. So I just want to thank you, Mayor, for all you're doing here, and that the 5 that do decide to come on board, I think that's going to be great. And I'm glad you said if you don't get picked out of that 5, I'm sure there's going to be so many different things that you can get involved with. So that's it. And then I'm going to yield the rest of my time to Commissioner Farnsworth. I know he's really wanting to talk about all these Seminoles that are leaving to go play at other colleges, and I think he's very concerned, and that's really important to him. Thank you.
Commissioner Farnsworth, do you want to tell us all about that issue? I wasn't aware, so.
I wasn't either. Sometimes you got to purge the trash out, to get the quality in. I really have nothing to say.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Martin?
I attended the Newberry-Jonesville Chamber dinner the other night, and it was pretty clear to me that we have a very good thing going here in Newberry. I'm always encouraged by different stories that we hear about folks like Chad and how much people like Tripp do for our community. I really also want to further commend this commission. When we talk about agreements with the county, we have the benefit of doing this in a microcosm that's, by analogy, maybe 10. They're looking at it from a scale of probably about 100,000. But the value of the people that we have in the room that are kind of going after some of these topics, we have a fantastic opportunity to get things off of their plate. And I want us to always be the ones who are doing that and always being the ones that are making it easier for them to say yes. So my hat's off to the staff going through a lot of this stuff. I know we hold a very high bar for you guys, and I think on most occasions, many occasions, that you certainly meet or exceed that bar. And I know that this commission couldn't get done what it wants to get done without you guys actually pulling the oars, so I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Blanchard?
Thank you. I just wanted to report that the first community meal was held Sunday at the MLK Center, sponsored by the Newberry United Methodist Church. It was well attended by 26 citizens, and every Sunday at 5 o'clock at the MLK Center, they will feed a beautiful meal to whoever shows up and have some community fellowship there. So thank you to that Methodist Church for doing that. And that's all I have today.
Thank you, ma'am. Well, I had quite a bit, but y'all hit a lot of them. So I just wanted to commend Mr. New. He was the keynote speaker at the Newberry-Jonesville Chamber. And so at the State of the City, we're just going to play that video over again because he hit it. He hit it all. He hit all the high points. It was great. The CJ Criminal Justice Expo is tomorrow at the high school. All of the commission, city staff are invited. At 5 o'clock, there's free food, so you can go get dinner, hear about everything that program is doing at the high school. I encourage you to go at least one time, check out, see kind of behind the scenes. The food is prepared by our culinary department, and it's one of the best kept secrets in the city of Newberry. The food is excellent, so it's a nice night, sit around, and usually every department has a rep there. Every law enforcement has a representative there. It's a great way to network and kind of meet and talk to everybody and see what is going on in that program. I just want to remind you, since we've already hit the State of the City, Farm Share is February 9th. If you can volunteer for that, that would be awesome. Volunteers get there about 6:30 in the morning, 7. Hopefully we've got it worked out where we got the cones are going to be out there. We've got the thing down to a science now. It's a drive-through. Last time, I think we opened at 9, starting to hand out the food, and we had served over just around 500 families by 11 o'clock. So within 2 hours, we can really move the folks through. I want to say that the MLK ceremonies this year were fantastic, and I want to really just extend a thank you to all of the community members that worked to make that happen, to all of our employees that worked overtime to make that happen. It really was historic. I think last year there may have been 30 to 50 people that attended. This year we were well over 100. So we more than doubled our attendance. I think we can build on that and really get folks involved. Pretty soon on the opioid issue, Commissioner Glanzer will be unveiling a pretty exciting moment. We've been able to partner with Health Promotions and Wellness. They're going to fund a billboard in town to help get people thinking about that. So she'll have the details of that forthcoming, but it should be in the upcoming weeks. And then I guess since we announced we proclaimed the opening of the elections, I'm going to go ahead and say that I do intend to run for mayor again. We've got about a dozen things going on in the city of Newberry that I'm extremely excited, and I want to see them through. I haven't heard yet whether any of my colleagues up here intend to run, but go ahead and say that.
Can we say that now?
Go ahead and say it. I think earlier the better, right? Just go ahead and let everybody know. Also, you know, you guys know that right before Christmas, I had a back injury. And on that day, I was actually supposed to go to the White House for the signing of the Farm Bill. And I emailed the White House back, which I'm sure was some sort of stock email. I thought it was some sort of stock email. Say, hey, I'm really sorry. I can't make it. I'm in the hospital. Since that time, I have been in constant communication with the White House. And it's not the president, but it is certainly the president's leadership that is putting together a responsive White House like I never in my wildest dreams anticipated. I have told this person that I'm talking with about our opioid initiative. We've talked about the Farm Bill, and I never would have believed that in a country as big as ours, with a government as big and complicated as ours, that small town mayors would get that level of responsiveness. So I just wanted to share, because I'm not sure that everybody knows exactly what. I know that you know, in this country we're always divided politically, but that's an important, I think that's an important part that the president is playing there, to make sure that from top to bottom everybody is getting included. I've participated in 2 or 3 conference calls about national issues. So there's really some networking that's happening at that level to try to understand what's going on in our country. And I just wanted to share that with you guys. And then my last comment is that, you know, I want to make sure our staff knows that I'm fully aware that you guys are overworked. And we've got you guys going on about 12 really, really big issues. And that gets tough to give, you know, USDA and AgTech and Canterbury and Roads and CRA, and the list goes on, your full attention. So whereas other municipalities are focusing on 1 or 2 things, trying to bring those home, we have you, collectively, we have you guys going in lots of different directions simultaneously. So I do understand that. I want to make sure y'all hear me say that I understand that. So I am frustrated about a roads deal, but I also understand that that is partly my fault for getting you guys going in 12 different directions. But it's also partly y'all's fault, because you bring all these directions to us. You say, hey, we have a chance to go after USDA. And I say, well, we got to do it, right? So we have to seize the day. And that will conclude my comments, public comment.
I would like to congratulate the City of Newberry for being selected the Member of the Year. The City of Newberry has been home to my home and my business. I come from the other side of the world. And I've been so well received. I'm so happy to be in this small town. And so congratulations to you. And on your effort with the opioid crisis, as I shared with you, Jordan, it is a story that hits home. My own brother, my younger brother, he's 6 years younger than me, and I was not part of his story when he went through addiction, but ours is a story of success, where my father's determination and patience brought him out of it, and he's a successful businessman. He's married to a very nice woman. She's a PhD and she's a professor. My family has had a story of success, and my brother continues to help everybody. He is the regional lead of Narcotics Anonymous in India, and he helps everybody he can. I don't have the resources, means, or training to help anybody, but if I can find anybody to help this cause, I certainly will.
Thank you so much. We need it. We need to be all in, because you're now more likely to die from opioid overdose than a car accident.
You're welcome for that news article, by the way.
Thank you.
Naeem Urchin, citizen. I can't reiterate enough about this opioid crisis. I really want to state on the record, you are not alone. If you are going through this, please understand you are not alone. There are people out there that are walking in your shoes, walked in your shoes, and they are here to help you. don't wait for this task force to take place for you to figure out, I'll wait, because waiting will be too late. Okay? If you need somebody, call somebody. And on the record, the local NA is 352-376-8008. Because, like I said, waiting for a task force to be, which is a great thing, might be too late for someone out there right now. And I will say, you are not alone. You need help. Please just reach out. You never know who you're going to help at the same time as helping yourself. So, thank you.
Thank you. Other public comment? If you want to get involved immediately, you can go to newberryunited.com, and that is Newberry's headquarters in the opioid crisis. Hearing no further comment, we are adjourned.